to order. So notice of this meeting was given in accordance with the provisions of bylaw 0164B of the Riverside Local Board of Education, which was adopted in accordance with section 1.450 of the ORC in the Ohio Administrative Procedures Act. Can you take roll, please?
One lens came out,
Uh-oh.
put them on, didn't realize it. I'm like, wow, this is weird.
You can take a moment and fix them.
No, we might, it just gotta go a little slower. Mrs. Kronitzky,
Here.
Mrs. Grassi,
Here.
Mr. Audino,
Here.
Ms. Brewster,
Here.
Mr. Byers.
Here.
Thank you. Can we stand for the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, so that brings us immediately to our first topic, which is our work session. I just want to kind of set the stage a little bit though. So I've worked with Dr. Tino and Dr. Thompson with the questions that the board had all submitted and provided. And what I'd like to ask the board to do, a lot of the questions were answered in an email, so you did receive questions to everything, or answers to everything. But some of the questions will be answered in the presentation. So I would ask the board if we can kind of hold all of our questions that come up during the presentation until after they're finished presenting. So they did make us this nice packet. The slides are printed a little bit larger than normal so we can take notes to come back to.
So we can see.
Yeah, I'm done. This, my glasses are shut.
So I would just ask us to do that. The other
So
thing,
we'll pop
I think
in.
it's very important just to set the stage here. What's going to happen tonight is they are going to present their recommendations for the district vision and direction. Also, their recommendations for how we move forward. And then that'll leave us into some really good discussion. In there will also be some other options, some other realistic options for us to consider as part of that conversation. Really want to keep us at that strategic level tonight because there's going to be a lot of tactical questions they can't answer today because again, we're just coming up with about what does it look like moving forward, right? So I'm going to ask us to kind of stay at that strategic level today. There'll be plenty of time for us to dig into the tactical details, so forth. But again, I would just love to start with them presenting and then us come back to that discussion. Any kind of questions about that approach or? All right. Cool, then I'm going to toss it over to you.
I did just upload the slide deck for tonight into the Board of Education folder for the work session. So you have a copy of that as well. That's up there, but thank you. And really excited to have a chance to present this as to where we're at. Our whole presentation and recommendation is based upon not only the portrait of a beaver, but one community pursuing greatness, getting better every day. Really trying to work that throughout. First and foremost, we want to take a look at the landscape and where we're at. For these things. So really important. What's the problem we're looking at? We actually have a dual challenge. We have a systemic structure deficit where our expenditures grow faster than revenue. In fact, if I've looked at the last 15 years and our revenue has not kept pace with inflation, is about half the rate of inflation. Not that the rate of inflation is great, I would say it's not, but we're not to the point where we need to be. And at the same time, we have aging infrastructure that no longer meets modern educational standards, and we are one disaster away from a true problem. The district runs incredibly lean, as we are the second lowest in Lake County in spending per pupil, with 71% of our funding and our revenue generated from local sources. That is the third highest in Lake County. So when you look at the states or the school districts in Lake County, our tax base share is pretty significant. We are fiscally responsible, and our fiscally responsible operations have led to significant estimated savings in both this fiscal year and predicted in next. Just to look at where we are compared to Lake County and some of our spendings that's there, so that graph, and I know it's really small on the screen, it's small on my own, but I did blow up some information here. Those are all the districts. Riverside is the second lowest in amount of spending per pupil, and that is, I don't think this is gonna work on the screen, no. That is these, we're the second, I'll just do the old fashioned one. We're the second bar right here. So when you look at where we are in terms of expense, our expenses per pupil, and we are seeing the fact that our revenue coming in, we still our expenses are a little bit above what our revenue is. So this kind of predicts and shows some deficit spending that we're getting at. These are things we've had. We are doing some things, and we are making some efforts to curb that where that's at. But that's kind of where we're at from our forecast. That's what we've predicted. It's not a surprise. Dr. Thompson spoke about that at all. When you look at how we get our funds, so where our revenue comes from, and again, this is where it really kind of came out, and I was like, oh, this is local share. So the dark blue is the local share of what we bring in. We are the third highest. The two that are higher than us, Mentor and Wycliffe. Which I was a little surprised at when you think of industry and how local property, local share is also its property tax Class A and Class B combined. So it takes both of those. So Wycliffe has Lubrizol, and I don't know how many tax abatements they have in Lubrizol, but I'm sure they give their share to some. I'm not going to name
Dark blue, I'm sorry.
Dark blue is local.
Local. Okay.
Light blue is state. The thing that got me in this one that I really kind of took out to is Perry is about 50-50 state and local share. A lot of that is because of the tax changes that they made in terms of tangible personal property tax. The state still reimburses that back to them. So some of the changes they made in terms of business taxes and fairway, and that gets reimbursed back to Perry. So that's where we stand. Again, object spending per pupil. This is salaries. We've always said we're salaries and benefits. Salaries is this color, there's benefits. We're in line with most of the others. We're right in line. We have made a concentrated effort not to hide salaries as such. So sometimes what districts will do is they'll contract with an ESC for administrative or for specialized services, and they'll call that a purchase service. We want our people to be our people. We brought them in and we've said, this is what we're spending and this is where the money's going. So see where we're at. And then what those functions are. Anything that's red or orange directly impacts students with their classroom expenses. So that's where we are. Just to kind of spell out kind of where the expenses go. The need is clear. When you look at it, operating is an issue. We need to address operating funds. We do have a deficit forecast of spending despite, and I want to reiterate, we've just by running how we run, we've made $1 million in savings in fiscal year 26, over $1 million, and then we have a projected $500,000 in fiscal year 27. So $1.5 million in savings that we're trying to save just by running fiscally responsible. We're exploring win-win shared service agreements when we can. Fairport, our food service agreement with Fairport is a great example of that. They get food service, we benefit from that in terms of getting their federal funding, working to that to make sure that it is actually it's self-sustaining and we're not losing money. A lot of districts lose money in food service. We have always actually run the opposite. We make some money. That's a great thing for us. We have great cooks, we have kids who are hungry, and we work the way to make sure we do that. Fairport, we have reached out to Fairport and other local districts about other shared service agreements. We want to make sure they're beneficial for us and we're not just the big school out there providing the form. So they have to be the win-win model. Some of those are challenging. Busing comes up a lot. That would be great if we can find the drivers. Bus drivers that's a big, we would love to help people, but we have to make sure we have the staff to do it. So we have 3 open routes right now currently on our staff that we're trying to fill, so we would need to fill more. So continue to find that need. We also think the Buckeye expansion, elementary redistricting and taking Millage offline is going to offer savings. We are going to be able to, through attrition, lose some positions, also through not having electrical, those sort of things. That's going to help us out. Declining enrollment has allowed for us to do attrition. So we are seeing declining enrollment. That has impacted our attrition and allowed us to save money. So we're not in a significant trend where others might be. Also, the second priority, the need is clear in priority 1A, and we call that facilities. Recently, as we're going through the strategic plan, I've had a chance to sit on some of our community focus groups, as well as looking at surveys from 2019 and 2024, and all of them call for a clear and present need to address secondary education spaces. The need is out there and it is clear. It's a 75-year-old building that has significant needs. We've got all the data to back that up. We can't do that without generating new funds. We either need those new funds to renovate current spaces, replace with brand new facilities, or a hybrid model of both. This high school, and everyone we've talked to in every survey, it's beloved, it's iconic, the way that it looks as you drive through Riverside Drive. It is a signature showpiece of this community, and it's a source of pride, and we need to embrace that. But a cost of a complete renovation, it gets incredibly costly because you have to put kids while you're renovating. So you have to move kids out. You can't renovate a school this large over the summer and section it off. It becomes incredibly expensive. So that's a hard one. And if we continue to delay and not work to address those issues, we've talked about, well, the boilers could go. Well, the roof could go. All of these what ifs, and we're getting closer and closer, and the structures they're making us more and more nervous as to where we're at if we don't do something to start addressing it. We start to put money into this, into this facility. Is that the best use of our funds at this time? And so the facilities plan has been updated, submitted in the draft form to you as well to look at where we're at with that. So again, one community pursuing greatness, getting better every day. That's what we want to focus on. We're at a critical crossroads. Both operating and building funds are needed. It's not due to mismanagement of funds. It's not due to excessive spending on anything. Continuing with the status quo will likely have a significant outcome on the student experience. If we don't act and do anything, at this point we're at the point where students and student programming will suffer. Although operating funds will always be the sole priority, I think this is the time when you need to look at both to preserve long-term viability. And what's the vision? So let's start the vision first. So the vision, in looking at this, is reimagine the Riverside campus, honoring our past while securing our future. It is important to look at what the community has said, how important this iconic building is. We need to honor the heritage. Our proposal is construct a new campus wing that complements the iconic architecture of Riverside High School when viewed from Riverside Drive. Don't take away that experience and that source of pride from the community. We need to partner with community members. We need to create a hub. I do believe that every community, and one of the things that's lacking in this community that's coming out in our focus groups as well, is we need a centralized hub for all these communities to come together. They come together for school here, but that's kind of it. Can we utilize what we have in land and spaces to really provide a central hub to that? We have talked with the YMCA. We have meetings set up with local townships. We're talking with medical providers to try to find ways to do more than just a school and be the all-inclusive community center for that. Revitalize our high school. So refresh and renew the current high school to accommodate maximum modernized programming. At one point, Dr. Thompson and I said to do that will be incredibly expensive and way more expensive than actually tearing down and building new. We asked TDA to look into it. They said, absolutely, actually it's not. It's pretty close. So we had some new ideas with them. Maximizing our shared investment. And again, talking about how do we leverage our partnerships so that when we do a project like this, it doesn't just benefit our students, but it benefits our entire community as one. Because that is a big thing for us. So what does that look like on a campus? Well, our proposal includes making and revitalizing the Riverside campus so that it's 712. That works better from a programming standpoint, as well as where we work in Ohio kind of operations. Basically, 712 is that secondary level. So you have sports that start at that age. You also have the school day length is different, K6 versus 712. It makes it a little bit different. So looking at a 712 Riverside campus, Lamouth becomes an intermediate school that allows us to grow in all those areas, and then all three of our elementary schools become pre-K4. So that doesn't mean we're going to add preschool to all of those, but preschool and through kindergarten through fourth grade will be served by our three elementary schools. When you look at kind of our enrollment and where births are, and this is just kind of we're pretty flat in trajectory, and we're seeing and we're predicting that we're going to be around our largest class coming up, around 300. 275 to 300 is our sweet spot kind of moving forward. So we are seeing declining enrollment, although birth rates have declined a little bit. And we're seeing birth rate decline not only across the region, but across the nation as well. I mean, I've learned firsthand kids are really expensive. But I also think we are seeing that birth rate is kind of declining, and we're not necessarily seeing that. We're seeing that in the region as well. and we're in our class sizes. So we're predicting 300 to 275 a class. Well, what's it gonna look like? So TDA did some renderings, and these are just really kind of cool. This is, so it is AI generated, but this is the original high school. So if we redid the high school, this would be the original high school, remodeled and redone. They would build a wing on the high school outside of the, right out there on the band field. So that's a wing. And then these back here would be common spaces. So this is your cafeteria commons. They've added another gym here. This is the media center, all of that. So the space itself will be separated by programmatic grade levels. So you have 7th grade, 8th grade. As you move towards more high school, we would still keep our brand new CTX wing, all that. But again, driveway in the front for student drop-off. It naturally separates out our transportation facility by the drop-off. Transportation was back there. This is kind of the vision that TDA came up with. We said, hey, what does this look like? And then one of the great things about Riverside is how do we look at night, Friday nights at Riverside? So TDA agrees, so they did a picture of it at night. And just a rendering of it at night. If they were to build a new building, and what a new building would look like, one of the things we said is, again, needs to look like the high school. That's a new building in the same spot. Really what they're doing is building in the parking lot behind the high school and shifting some parking up front. But that would be the rendering of a new building. Preserving the field house and all the history behind building the field house, making sure that field house is there and upgrading and modernizing the field house, and all of that. So that's the vision. What are the strengths in that? Well, number one, instructional and operational efficiency. When you have grades 7 through 12, you can have teachers teach subjects between 7 through 12. That's where Ohio licensure bands fall. So you can be really efficient in the classes and the classes the teachers are offering. Get really kind of down to that, all of your subjects along the way. Access to advanced coursework. One of the things, again, in Ohio coursework, 7 through 12, you start to see, hey, we really need some access to high school courses in 7th grade, CCP courses in 7th, 8th, all the way up to that. Having the opportunity for those career technical spaces. Creation of that community hub is another one. And then modernizing offerings while preserving our traditions. So really kind of what does that look like? What are the challenges? The number one challenge is cost and the impact on the local tax funding. The second one is securing that commitment and buy-in from partners. And the third is just timelines. The when is really important. And how do we make sure we hit our timelines and then we answer all the questions that we have, which is a whole lot of work that goes from there. So how do we pursue greatness? What are our options and timelines? Well, we have two. The first would be to put this on in November of 26. There are strengths to that. The benefits are, the sooner we pass this, the sooner we start to collect revenue, the sooner we dig out of our deficit spending. Waiting until May 27 forfeits that full year, because you can only start collecting depending on what the board chooses. You don't start collecting until the next calendar year at the earliest. The momentum. There's a lot of momentum around our district right now, and capturing on that momentum and building on that momentum moving forward, I think is really important, and this is an opportunity to build with that, because we're at a positive space. Prevent significant reductions, and waiting amplifies our deficit spending, which leads us to larger and more disruptive and future reductions. We've talked a lot about this, and hear Dr. Thompson say more about this, and not to steal something, but cutting our way out of this it's almost impossible. We need to kind of have some other ways to do it, and we address our infrastructure now. We don't wait till we have a boiler go down, or we don't wait till there's a hole in the roof or something. We address it immediately, and we stop kind of the repairs that we have, and everything we have is for a purpose and a structured purpose. What's the challenge? Number one, it's a tight timeline. To turn it around in November, to have a levy spun up, to have everything there, to have the drawings, the concepts, 3D models, everything that we know we need, because we've heard we need, that's a tight timeline to get there. Those deadlines, we need to know tonight to kind of have the proof, the resolution and all that to move forward, and getting input. So really kind of getting that, what is that timeline that we need to make sure that we have that, so that we have that community input along the way. Well, the other option is May. If we go in May, what's the option and what are the pluses in May? Well, this gives us really time to engage stakeholders, move forward in our preparation, really take a look at, more time, engagement, get this out there, ask the questions, answer questions, continue to move forward, refine the vision, get our partners on board, and also it's not a hey, it's reduced levy fatigue. So we're not rushing anything. We're really being purposeful about how we place this. What are the challenges? Obviously, we lose the year in collections. The longer we wait, if we are to do this, the costs that go up. Construction costs aren't going down, they're continuing to rise. We're looking at about a 5% inflation rate in construction from one year to the next. We are accelerating our fiscal decline. That's kind of where we're at. And then also the imminent reductions and perceived threats from those as to what happens if we are not successful with the ballot. So what does that look like moving forward? And last but not least, let's talk about funding models and how we can do this. And in Ohio, there's a number of different funding methodologies as to how we can do it. As I said, we are over 70% locally funded. That's not going to change anytime soon. I have not seen any legislation that says we are going to change that at any point. The current method that we fund most of our revenue with is traditional property tax. That is private real estate and also public utilities, also corporate. As you've heard, House Bill 920 has an impact on property tax because it's a flat collection rate. So it does not adjust with inflation. The primary strength is it's stable. People understand what it is, and it includes our businesses. The primary challenge is it's burdensome on our homeowners. And that is a real challenge right now. Not by anything we've done. The way we've shifted our taxing policy in Ohio, it has shifted the burden of property tax to our local homeowners over the past 25 years. And so I think that's a significant change. Another funding methodology is traditional income tax. This taxes every single wage earner and every single income earner. House Bill 20 is not impactful on this. This captures investments, this captures retirement accounts and wealth and all that. So this is all the community members in there. What are the challenges? It excludes business entities, and you can only adjust that in a 0.25% increments. So you don't have the range that you have with a property tax. You can go up by tenths of a mil. You're looking at 0.25% increments, which are that's a large jump in our district. One of the it's not a newer way of funding, but it's become more apropos within the educational community with all of the the focus on property tax is looking at earned income. So earned income is very different. This is what looks at wages and self-employment. It taxes those who are working, and those would be the people most likely to send their students to school or recently as a part of the schools. Again, not impacted with House Bill 920. It does protect our seniors on a fixed income, which we hear a lot about. Continuing to raise tax, it protects them. They are not subject to this tax. The challenge of it is a narrower tax base, so the impact does go on fewer people. It misses our businesses. It doesn't hit investments, and it's also only in 0.25% increments. And the last one is we can combine them, and we can do a combination income tax and bond issue. So you kind of hit both. The only impact that 920 has would be a property tax on the bond portion of it, or the property tax portion of it. The strength of it is it diversifies risks and it balances it out a little bit. Again, we capture back on those businesses that are great to it. The challenge is it's really tough to explain what this means and what this looks like, and for every person it's different. So it's not a simple, hey, this is for $200,000, this is how much it's this and this. So if you fit into it, the explanation of it becomes more challenging. So the need's evident, and it's not a result of fiscal mismanagement. In fact, over the last 25 years, statewide tax policy has shifted the financial responsibility to our local property taxpayers. Consequently, Ohio is now one of the states with the lowest income tax rates. I believe we're third or fourth in terms of lowest fixed income tax rate, but the highest property tax rates. I think it's 45th. So there's a significant difference. Property tax is something that needs to be addressed. We understand that. All the polling says that is a challenge for our taxpayers. Additionally, over the past 15 years, the district revenue has not even kept pace with inflation. That is a result of House Bill 920. Those fixed rates that are there don't adjust at all. Even if they adjusted with inflation, we wouldn't necessarily be here, at all. We are well under the pace of inflation. So that kind of spells the need. And then the recommendation is from Dr. Thompson as to how we move forward and all of the finances that go with it.
Thank you, Dr. Rattino. So I'm going to try to give you some factual information to kind of help you determine potentially how to move forward. But I will say this, that the analogy that you see in the picture, the ship going out, some irony in a ship in water at this point, I guess, in our world history, but we don't know how rough the seas are be. We don't know. No one knows that. What I would challenge and hope for is that we do what's in the best interest of our students, our staff, and our community. And whatever you feel that is, I would ask that we have the courage to do that, whatever that is for you. So, oops, wrong direction. So, the questions that have been proposed that we'll address here on the back half of this is: what funding mechanism makes the most sense and why? What are the tax implications of an earned income and a general property tax? Those are what I mostly focus on, those two. Is even being on the ballot in November, is that a realistic option? What are the risks of the recommended approach that we will touch base with here towards the end? What would happen if a levy fails? And the question is, and I think the two people most baffled by this question are Chris and I, but if your recommendation differs, where and why? And does my financial recommendation match with his vision that he set for the district? And just to go ahead, the answer is yes. So what funding mechanism makes the most sense and why? So an income tax does allow us some financial stability and predictability. We know that we've talked enough about 920. We can anticipate, most of the experts are saying, we can calculate about a 2% increase year over year on income tax versus virtually no increase on property tax. Maybe easier to pass as the communities are fatigued. I think people are burnt out by constant property tax asks. And I've heard there's this gentleman in our community that kind of speaks to that. I don't know.
All rumors.
Is it all rumors? Okay. It aligns with the statewide sentiment. Regardless of what happens with the movement to abolish property tax, clearly there are a lot of folks that are advocates of that. It has its detractors as well, but I think clearly what is being stated is that we can't continue to keep putting the burden on our property owners. And again, it's not subject to House Bill 920, and we've TIF'd, given tax breaks for almost so many new projects, whether they're commercial or housing stock, and so we're not even realizing the tax increase we should get.
I think every new residential neighborhood has either a 10-year 75 RID on it, or obviously the case that there's a board for TIF. But we see the houses built before, and the students come before we start to capitalize on any of the financial gain from it, which really puts us in a burden.
And speaking of the word burden, this does, if it's an earned income tax specifically, it does help those residents on a fixed income for sure. And they might be house rich, they might be in an expensive home, but they see significant drops in their income. And as a person who's not that far off from that reality, it's becoming more real and real to me, even on a personal level. Captures non-property owners, renters, and higher income earners contribute directly to the school funding. And there is a perception that it's more equitable by some. and residents often see income-based taxation as a fairer way to tax versus residents in terms of some people are homeowners, some people are not, et cetera, et cetera. So what are the tax implications? So I did income based on 100,000. I did homes. When we do get to that, you'll see I based that on 200,000. There are very few homes out there that are $100,000 in value anymore. So typically that's what we have done historically, but I moved it up to 200. But for income, it's real simple. So we're looking at two numbers, 0.75. Again, this is earned income, not traditional income tax, and I will show you the difference. So obviously, that's $750 a year, $6,250 a month, certainly has an impact. And then the same is true, that should say $100,000 income. It says home, my fault. That's obviously $1,000 or $83.33 per year. So I want to go back to looking at the 5-year forecast here. So this is the February forecast, which is, if we were looking at the straight February forecast, that revenue and surplus would be red all the way across. If you look at the far left, 2026, in the red, it says 896. My last, the fall forecast had that at $1.6 million to the good. That was one change by the Lake County on the rollbacks, and the homestead took that right off our books. So that is, they have to vote on it year over year, but it is, I have forecasted assuming that that stays as is. So you can see, even with an increase of 0.75, we only get out of deficit spending for just a short hot minute. What this is telling you is we're not producing the revenue that we need to get out of that. Versus look at the red numbers across again on our February forecast with a 1% income tax. So how can we do a building with 1%? Is that possible? 1% earned income tax generates estimated $13.7 million. Our general fund needs at least $8.5 million. The target set by the board was 5 to 7 years to get at least that far in that range. In order to do that, we would need estimated $8.5 million of annual increase in order to achieve that goal. Our debt obligation for a 712 building, regardless if it's a renovation or a new build, I'll show you the numbers, they are shockingly close to one another, would be $5.9 million. So if you do that math, what you'd find out is that for us to do this project at 1%, we would still have to cut $700,000 year over year in order to hit that 7 or 8 or more years. I would hope it'd be more years, but minimally that number, and meet our debt obligations. So it is not as though we're asking for so much money that we don't have to worry about how tightly we manage the budget. It still needs to be managed very, very tightly. And I can say this as honestly and clearly as I possibly could. When I came here, I anticipated some low-hanging fruit. Everywhere I've ever gone, there's been low-hanging fruit, but there truly isn't here. We run very lean. Could we make reductions? Sure, but I'm going to show you what that would look like in just a minute. So what are the implications of a traditional property tax? What if we went traditional? So I modeled both 4 mil levy and a 5 mil levy. 4 mil levy would collect roughly $6.9 million a 5 mil levy would collect about $8.6 million. So now we're going to that $200,000 home value. So 4 mills would cost $280 per $200,000. So if you live in a $400,000 home, double that number. And that's $23.33 a month at $200,000. Double it if it's a $400,000. Triple it if it's a $600,000 home. 5 mills. Now we know does 4 mills generate enough money? The answer is no. Remember, we need at least 8.5 million to meet the board's goal of 5 to 7 years. So I modeled 5 mills. $200,000 home, $350 each year. That's $29.16 a month. So again, this is what our 5-year forecast would look like with a 4 mil levy. We're not even out of deficit spending, and by 2030, we're at $6.2 million in deficit spending, and we would have a carryover of just under $7 million, which means we would be levy imminent almost by 2030. We're back on the ballot at 4 mills. 5 mills, it's a little bit better. Stretch it a little bit longer. But what I'm saying is with 4 mills or 5 mills or 1%, we still have to make some reductions and we still have to run very tightly. One's manageable, one's not. 5 mills would be manageable, 1% would be manageable. General operating levy for homes, $200,000 in value. If we try, what would we have to ask for in general property tax if we were going to try to sustain ourselves, stabilize ourselves from a fiscal perspective, and build the building? So 5 mills for operating, $350 per $200,000. 4 mills for $120 million bond issue, that's $275 a year. So for every home of $200,000 in value would be $625 per year. It's a pretty significant ask. So why an income tax? Chris has already hit on that to some degree. But from my perspective, it's the fairest, it's the most sustainable way to fund our schools. And obviously, those that earn more have a higher ability to make a payment versus property tax isn't directly correlated with anybody's income per se, especially if you're a senior and you're on a fixed income, which this addresses. We know that the escalating burden on property owners is significant, and it ensures that all working residents contribute, not just property owners. It's more reliable, it's voter-supported revenue stream, in an environment where property taxes are increasingly unstable and under pressure. Is November realistic? Struggle with that as I sit here, and so does Dr. Retino. We've gone back and forth. How many hours have we spent on this topic alone?
I don't want to.
Several. But this is where I land, even still. If we delay, there's significant impact of that. There's a real cost to that. Because we would lose an entire year of collections by waiting. So what that means, instead of fighting out a picture that 5-year forecast in your head, 896, we're either going to fight out of a hole of 896 or we're going to fight out of a hole of almost $5 million. So what does that do to your 5-year forecast? It shortens the length of your ability to stay off the ballot moving to the future, because we have so much ground to make up from waiting a year. Of course, the downside of that is, can we put together an effective levy campaign and answer the questions that the board will have, naturally, and what the community will have? Can we do that and do that effectively? I would like to have a lot more time, but all of that swirling in my head, Chris's head, we could lose, obviously, but I really feel like we have to get out there, work hard, get out there every night we possibly can, talk to as many people as we possibly can, and make sure they at least know our circumstances. I think if they do know and understand, I think we'll have the support we need to pass. So we just have to work hard, and that's what it comes down to. So I wanted you to also know, I don't know what the state's going to do as it relates to state receivership, because there are so many school districts in the exact same situation we are in, or worse. So I'm not sure what that means. So I'm just telling you what state receivership means currently, unless somehow legislatively it changes. So fiscal caution, that's the first step. That is triggered by early signs of financial issues. That will not trigger a response from ODU, but we know that we have triggered that from the perspective that we're in deficit spending. The next step where the state does get involved is fiscal watch. And that's declared when our deficits exceed 8% of our general funds. I'll show you the exact specific numbers here in a minute. And what that requires, and it will require from us in the fall, unless something changes that I do not currently see, will be in fiscal watch, which means we will have to put a fiscal recovery plan together, board approve, and send to ODU within 60 days of the submission of our fall forecast. Then comes fiscal emergency. That's declared when they say our plan is unacceptable, or if our deficits exceed 15%. If that were to occur, then a Financial Planning and Supervision Commission is put together, it's established, it actually takes over the authority of the board and really limits the ability of the treasurer and the superintendent to conduct day-to-day operations, and every single expenditure must be approved by the commission. So, and what they will typically do, or they have historically done, is say, get on the ballot, require us to be on the ballot, and then cut the state minimums. So think of it, if you're going into surgery, do you want a skilled surgeon, or do you want somebody with a butcher's knife? Because that's essentially what it is. We're just going to cut it out, here it is, cookie cutter, state minimums, and the repercussions for your district, that's not their concern. So February, again, this is our February forecast as currently approved. So that's what we're looking at right now. So you can see we're in deficit spending at 896. That's at 1%. That triggers fiscal caution. Next year, all things remaining as they currently are, which is next year is this summer, by the way. It's not next year. It's next fiscal year, but it's this summer. If our 5-year forecast doesn't significantly change, what I don't have in there is we're at somewhere around $500,000 to $600,000 in reductions for next year right now, which is good. So it had dropped that a little bit, but it's still going to be over 8%. It'll still trigger fiscal watch. We stay in fiscal watch, all things, again, staying status quo, but not by much. By 0.8% is all that we're off from going into fiscal emergency in 28, but 29, we absolutely hit fiscal emergency and state receivership. That is where we are. That is where we are. And it is not, you can be the most fiscally responsible board and administration in the world, and every single school district will experience this over time. Because of House Bill 920 and because of simply the way the system is put together. If we were just, so I showed this to you earlier, if we were just to receive an inflationary increases on our revenue, that $17 million would be about $8 million in cash reserves. But because we don't, we're suffering the same pressures as any resident in this community, in this country feels. We feel it tenfold. So, again, just a quick summary. Fiscal caution. That's where we are. Fiscal watch. We've got to submit that plan to ODU. Same in 28, and then fiscal emergency in 29. If we do not make, and I would submit to you, we couldn't make enough cuts to get out of 29. We couldn't make enough cuts. Not operate. We must have additional revenue or some significant change in state legislature, and I do not anticipate that. So what are the risks of our recommended approach? The risks are real. Again, it's that press timeline. It could impact our levy, and that is real. But I would also say, you know, I guess I really don't speak to this the way this board can, or the way pretty much anyone in this room can, in that I just moved here, so I don't know tons and tons of people, but I've been doing this for 29 years, and you can get feels. You get a feel. You talk to a few people. You get a sense of where a community is, and to me, it feels like we have some support for our new board. I think you all have shown, you know, our longtime members like Lori and Belinda have shown fiscal responsibility over dozens of years. I think there is a level of trust that exists, and we just need to do yeoman's job in getting out and getting this information out to the community. And we're going to need everyone's help to effectively do it. What happens if a levy fails? So I would break it up into two ways of looking at it. Chris and I have talked about this. You know, I think what you lose by matters. So I would suggest we react based on a margin and not on emotions. Set the margin before you know what the margin is. I think that helps guide you. But a narrow loss, 5 points or less, signals that the plan is viable, it has some momentum, and I would say we run it back. If it's a wider defeat, 6 points or more, we need to reset, take the building off, reduce our ask, re-engage the community. But in either case, there needs to, if we're coming back after a failed levy, we have to be very, very crystal clear about what the ramifications are of a second failed levy. And if that were to happen, we have to follow through on that to the letter. You lose credibility when you don't do that. And I've seen that happen in other places. Conversely, I would say you don't come out with that list before you, in November, if we choose to go in November, or if May is the first time, you don't come out with that in November My experience is that people's reaction is very negative to that when you haven't failed a levy, and it's viewed as a threat, an attempt to intimidate, coerce. We're running lean. That needs to be part of our story. We're fiscally responsible. That needs to be part of our story to show and the facts support that, as evidenced by one of the charts Dr. Rutino showed of our expenditure per student in Lake County is the second lowest in all of Lake County. Okay, so again, this was a question that was asked. No, they do not differ. Updated facility costs. I want to talk a little bit about enrollment. What we are seeing, Dr. Rutino already hit upon. The number that we construct the building at 1,700 and 7 through 12 is adequate in our view. Since 2020 to now, we have lost over 200 students and declined by 5.2%. Since 2010, we have declined by over 20%. So it's been consistent. Are there anomalies where a year pops up? Yes. But overall, birth rates have declined. And we also know this, that is so different and so unique. Well, less unique now. It's been a while, but at least from where I grew up, there weren't options. You went to your public school. Maybe there was a Catholic school, maybe. But now there are so many options. And we are in a competitive market. And I would submit to you that buildings matter when it comes to the competitive market as well. What you offer parents and their students matters. And that translates into dollars. So what we're looking at, I know it's small. I did not make this. In the bottom right corner, UCTDA has put this together for us. So this is a 712 building cost. This is the new. The assuming tear down and new is what this assumes. You can see that's the base cost is $107 million for that building. And just to put that in perspective, well, let me go to the bottom one here. So everything all in is 119, called $120 million. It's just short of $120 million. In 2019, so not that long ago, in Willoughby Eastlake, we built North, South, and Longfellow, an elementary school, for $127 million. That's how much inflation has impacted construction and construction costs. And the longer we continue to kick the can, the higher the price for this project is. So again, you saw that picture. That's your 712 campus. There's the night. This looks super cool. Had to add it. Sorry. This is what I'm referencing as a hybrid or renovation. The 7-8 section of this building is new. The high school is renovation. So the new addition, ironically, is $59 million. The renovation is $59 million. Very little difference, but look at this. Look how close total cost, $120 million. So I would have predicted and been wrong that renovation would be significantly higher. I think there are some advantages to renovation and there are some advantages to new, for sure. One of the main advantages to new is you don't have to worry about swing space, and you've got that new. Where even if you totally renovate, the renovation job is a bit more challenging because of swing space. Can be done, but it would be a little tighter, a little more challenging. And as much as you want to make it all new, you're still hooking up and using some of the old systems that are 75 years old. So that's a downside of a renovation. So that's what the renovation looks like. You saw that, the renovation of RHS and the new 7-8 building. So the summary of the building options right here, just to give you a general overall perspective. And I want, on the record, I want to check the square footage. Ignore the square footage because I'm not sure I might have typoed that, and so I apologize. But they both are 1,200 students. They're both 612. They both have a 600-seat performing arts center.
The renovated one may be more.
What's that?
The renovated one may be larger because it's a renovation of the current.
Well, that is true. That is true. Good point. The hybrid model, 712, 1,200 students. So the pack is actually 850
It's about
seats,
850.
roughly. And it comes in phases, 3 phases: the existing renovation, the new addition, and the demo. Now I will also show you that if you take a look at, after it says new addition, $59 million, you'll see 4 years at 5% inflation rate applied year over year. So we are factoring in inflation. There is a factor in both of them for contingency costs. So I wanted to show you this. Earned income, you see at the bottom's at 13.7 at 1%, 0.75 is at 10.2 million. So if it were a traditional income tax ask, it could go to 0.75 if it were traditional and still build the building and meet our financial needs. For consideration. But much more challenging to pass. So all funds allocated, again, 13.7 million, general funds 8.5 million. I showed you this. That's a $700,000 reduction we need to make. Could we make reductions and then reduce our ask? Fair question. So if we drop to a 0.75% earned income tax, general fund still needs 8.5 million, facility still needs 5.9 million. That would create an annual operating deficit of $4.2 million. Now, before I go to this next slide, I want to say that it is arbitrary. You could mix it around in 1,000 different ways, but I think it shows you what's important. So what does that look like? If you have to cut $4.2 million, how would you do that? What could that look like? So if we look at it from a few different ways, if we increase student academic fees, so I applied a $100 fee to 3,900 students across the board. It could be any different number, but it shows you what you need to see. If we did pay to participate, again, $100 for every student who participates, and whatever that might be, from athletics to musical. If there are 400 kids each season that are participating, remember that's just the high school now, or the middle school, you generate about $120,000 less less F&Rs, free and reduced lunch. The early retirement incentive, it fluctuates from year to year, but it's about $400,000 annually. I put that up there just to talk about, there are some contractual things, but please keep in mind that that's not a decision the administration can make. That has to be negotiated. And I would submit to you that'd probably be difficult to negotiate out. Certainly not negotiate out without something in return. If we rift, reduction in force of 3 administrators, these are low-level administrators, that's $390,000. We'd need to rift roughly 30 teachers, 6 support staff to hit our $4.2 million. Again, you could structure this differently, sure, for sure. But the point I'm trying to illustrate is $4.2 million is incredibly impactful. incredibly impactful. And there would be unforeseen consequences of doing something like that, like student exodus out of the district. So the idea that we could reduce our ask, at least if it's earned income tax, by 25% isn't realistic. So our recommendation is to consider placing a 1% earned income tax on the November 3rd ballot. The purpose is to support general fund operations and construct that either a new or hybrid. I don't think that doesn't have to be answered today. We're really fortunate that it's the same price, so we can debate and talk about that longer. I would say that it would be paramount to make a decision fairly soon, because we're going to need some renderings, et cetera, et cetera. But we're fortunate that we don't have to make that decision right away. Some of the key points is that is, again, a sustainable revenue source for our district. It applies to our earned income only, our wages and salaries. Doesn't apply to Social Security, pensions, retirement incomes. And where we're asking you, as difficult as it is, and we understand how difficult it is. We've a lot of hours spent talking, just talking about what should we say to the board, what should we tell you, what should we recommend, it hasn't come easily. So I guess I would just like us, if we could, just to answer these questions. So there's the what and the when. So if it's a 1% earned income tax, and we can walk out of here with this or the next slide, our preference is this slide, our second choice is the second slide. This would be really important. So what if the what? 1% earned income tax. The answer is no, it's no. You're done. We're done. At least with that topic. If it's a yes, then that brings us to the when. Is it November 6th? Or is it May 2027?
So I just want to give the board a are you good?
I am good.
All right.
I am good.
So
No, I don't know why I read 27.
Oh,
So
okay,
that,
yeah,
no, May, I'm not sure what
early May.
I'm not
Okay.
sure when the May date
Okay.
is.
Right, so I just want to give the board time to ask some questions. So let's just start with one topic, just to kind of keep us focused. So Dr. Tino is recommending, again, in collaboration with Dr. Thompson, that we go with operating money in facilities. So I want us to, what questions do we have about that approach? So I have one. Just to be clear, I assume I know the answer, but we know what happens when we assume.
We do.
When we talk about facilities, I just want to be clear. Our PI fund today, what do we have in there to do any kind of facility improvement?
So we'll lock up about 1.1 million of the 3 million in Buckeye. So we have, as long as we keep earning the interest on the investments that we've been earning, so far it's been pretty steady. But we have roughly $2 million, which I would submit to you, at least until this project is completed, we need reserves in case of something catastrophic. And I'd be scared to tie up over the course of time anymore from PI.
So you wouldn't recommend using what we have left to replace a roof or to put new windows in or, okay.
No. That's got to be
So
for
you
an
said
emergency.
1.1 million is what's left, less.
No, I'm sorry, 1.1 million of the 3 million is locked up in
Right,
Buckeye.
right.
Leaving us about $1.8, $1.9 million for repairs.
Right, okay, I just wanted
Roughly.
to make sure that was clear.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Graham.
So when we had talked about this a number of years ago, we had talked about taking the dollars that we had set aside in our PI fund, and we were gonna use those dollars, because we had moved them over from the COVID funding, and we were gonna use them for maintenance facility and a bus facility. How was that wrapped in here?
Those
Because
dollars were spent to
they were
build the
spent,
addition.
correct, they were spent, so they're gone. So now, are we not addressing those needs at this point?
So one of the thoughts, and again, the renderings that we have came yesterday after we tasked TDA to kind of give us some ideas. In speaking with TDA, we need some more, we do need some more information from them. But one of the thoughts we had in the current situation of if we were to build a hybrid model, so new addition, keep the original high school and rebuild it, is to keep the current media center of something, and then what's called the T-wing, which leads down to the John R. Gym, to address some of the maintenance facilities and all of that, and then as part of a project, work that in. We don't have costing on that yet, nor can we say this is viable or not, but that is definitely one that we have, to which keeping the media center and the John R. Gym is pretty easy, and Ryan said that's pretty thoughtful, pretty standard, and we can work that. And we do have contingency funds built into each of the either new or renovated to build onto the board or to build the board office in a addition onto the house that's currently sitting there. If those monies could be used and repurposed into some sort of renovation of those spaces there as well.
But that's not really answering the question, because when we, like I said,
So
when we
that-
had done this before, it was
Mhm.
almost $6 million that we were gonna spend on a maintenance facility and a bus garage. We don't have a lift, we don't have a bus facility that's sufficient to work on our own stuff.
No lift.
And so it was $6 million, that's
Mhm.
gone, because we spent the $1 million, $1.5 million of our own funds on the CTX edition, and we spent $4.5 million on the review. So it's depleted, so it was $6 million at that time. I just don't feel like that's addressing this,
It's fair.
that's part of it.
It doesn't at this point, in total fairness, it does not address that issue.
Yeah, and when you look at the costs associated with and I just want to clarify, when you talked about the auditorium, the print is a little smudged there, but was it 800 seats, did you say, or 600? It looks like 600 to 500.
So a
Right.
new build is a 600 seat auditorium. A hybrid renovation add-on is renovating the current auditorium space as it sits, which I believe is closer to 800.
Yeah,
What's that?
but right now, the,
450? No, it's 60. I think it's 800.
it's somewhere, I mean, the way this looks, it's somewhere between 5.8 or 6.4 million. And that's in the ballpark of addressing the bus garage and, transportation facility and maintenance. I don't know if maintenance is staying where it's at, but we definitely have an issue with the transportation facility. They don't have a lift. There's
Maintenance
all kinds of issues.
It's currently over in Concord.
Yeah, it's in Concord, and then they
Well,
also
correct.
use a little bit of space in the field house. I don't know if does this also address some of the needs of the field house, because you identified there's no air conditioning, more space. I don't know, I wasn't part of those conversations.
So again, I think just to kind of keep this, I think these are all valid and things that we'd have to dig into more, right? If we would decide to go with whichever way, and we'd have to have some discussions about how to do that and how to move forward. Very valid. I guess just to keep it at that higher kind of level again, is there any questions about the approach of building something new, and is there any questions about building and adding? Sorry, is there any
Yes.
question about adding facilities plus operating money if we move forward?
I have a lot of concerns about that. Our community at many points has indicated I mean, we asked them for facility, we've asked them for operating dollars. I'm not, I'm just gonna come out and I'm gonna say it, I'm not a fan of combining facility and operating into one ask. I'm just not a fan of it.
Can you tell us a little bit more, Belinda, just for our understanding of why you're not a fan?
Because I believe that we could do a hybrid model of 0.5% income tax and 5 mil levy and split the two. Levy financing for facility is fixed. It collects for a certain period of time and then it's done. And nobody, like, if you do that wrapped up into an income tax, either you're going to say, hey, I'm not gonna collect that anymore and I'm gonna give it back. You would have to do some board action to give that back.
So I guess my question, that sounds more like about how we go for the money to do it, right? So do you have any concern with saying, hey, yes, we wanted to ask for operating, and yes, we want to ask for facilities?
Yes, I'm not sure that, I just don't know that we're ready to ask for facilities. I'm not there yet.
Well, and
For me.
you know, we also have to look at the history. There was an ask for the high school, and I don't know all the finite details of it, but I do remember the failure was around 75%. And that was how long ago?
Well,
We need to have this conversation because it's part of the
I don't
history.
disagree. I guess what I'm asking now, is there a concern with the vision that Chris has presented? That's what I'm asking.
I personally, an hour and 15 minutes into it, so far so good in my opinion. In having had discussions prior to this, I think that 1% in one for both is a reasonable starting point. I do have a question specific to that. I don't know if anyone has control of the PowerPoint here, but it's on slide 30. You're welcome to use your packet if you don't want to. It's just a ways back. So if you don't want to go back.
Tell me what I'm looking for.
It's this one here that has the February forecast with 1% earned,
This way.
and it shows the future years. My question is, so it ends in fiscal year 2030 in this graph. What year do you think that 1% does put us in the red? 2032, 2033?
Well, the thing that's important to remember about a income tax, it takes 2 full years before it fully collects, which is part of why it doesn't impact the 5-year forecast quite as much. And the other thing which I did not build into the forecast is a 2% increase over time, year over year. So I feel pretty comfortable that would we find ourselves in a position where we had to potentially go back on the ballot at some point? Yes, the answer is yes. But this gives us the best opportunity to stretch the longest out of any of our options.
No
So-
guesstimate though on
Yeah.
if we're talking 2030. I mean, just looking at, I know you said this doesn't have the 2% rollover, but it looks like the depletion is about 50% year over year, starting in 2029, 2030. So you think
It wouldn't even kick in fully until 2028.
Right, so I think you're asking, do we think we could get out to fiscal year 2032 with this?
Exactly.
Yes, I believe that. Yeah, I don't have any question about that.
Okay,
Sure.
just 22 million.
Yeah.
And the one thing I wanted to ask is just because, it's, you know, in conversations I've had, people wanted to know the revaluation. Originally, that was what, 3.6, but then the county took 1.2. I just want to get my figures straight.
No, that is, I can speak to that. That has been, state legislation has taken that away. So anything that we got over, I believe it's 3% of an increase has been taken away by state legislation. Now, it's not taken away this year, because they're just not doing the sales tax holiday and they're funding it for that. So we have a 1-year kind of hold harmless. But in terms of our collections, they put in they put in some circuit breakers that do limit our inside millage adjustment, which is what that is when we get to the 20 mil floor. Not only that, they took us off the 20 mil floor because the substitute levy counts, so we're about 20.1, I think, or somewhere around there. We're real close to it, but because the substitute levy now counts as a part of the 20 mil floor, any predicted increases that we had, I believe we were predicting about 1.3 mil, I think is what we were thinking we were going to predict for that game. Any of those have been taken away, and so we are actually it reduces back. So you take the county's rollback and you combine the state's holding us harmless this year, but county puts a rollback in again. We're not going to collect as much next year as we collected this year because of that.
Okay, so, just to play the advocate for the taxpayer, so I'm paying $1,100 more a year. Where does that money go? The value of my house it's reevaluated, so I'm paying more money. I thought it was going to, 3.6 was going to the schools, so now it's not going to the schools.
Inside millage increases for everybody except the schools, which are subject to that.
But I'm still paying that amount, so where does it go?
Call the state.
You would have to look at your.
I just want to
Yeah,
know.
I'm
your
serious.
individual
I'm
tax
asking
bill.
us.
Your individual tax bill would specifically spell it out. Now, you paid that money this year. You're supposed to get a rebate back, and I believe that's how they're doing it when they put the levy, when they put the legislation in. There's supposed to be a credit on the next statement. I think they're crediting it is what they're doing. So there's a lot of, because it came out after it. So you should get some of that money back, but then you also get the doubling on the owner occupied and then homestead if you qualify for that. All of those get doubled as well, and that's where but still, when they change some of these things, I believe it and granted, schools take the majority of these of local property tax, but some of the other inside millage that goes to other places, I don't think those are subject to some of these rules. I have to double check that, and I'm not 100% sure.
But again, I think everybody can look at their own individual
Your
property
tax
tax
bill.
bills and it'll spell it out for you,
Yeah,
right?
so what I want to
Yeah.
know is, so you said that the commissioners took 1.2 million. So is that figure going to be adjusted because of what the state does? You're the one that had the conversation.
No,
so-
that is a really good question that people don't understand. And we don't know all of the ramifications of it, because if you get to, say, the 20 mil floor, 920 will kick in, and if you go below it, then do you adjust back up to it? So they don't know. All of these laws are out there, and there's all these scenarios where they're not 100% sure as to how they're going to play out yet. But they're making these adjustments for that. And again, you may be paying $1,100 more because your individual house value may have gone up a lot more than your neighbor, who their appraisal did not go up as much. So on average, our house values went up. I think it was 29% in the district. But that means on an average that some went up and some went down. And so some people are paying less taxes. And again, in your specific, your $1,100 more also includes an additional fire levy that was voted on as well for Concord. So that came through at that time. So it's not only the appraisal and the adjustment, but then now you have the 3.9 mil fire levy that was passed from Concord at the same time. So our Concord voters are paying the additional 3.9 plus whatever the reappraisal was. So it was kind of a double hit. You'd have to look at your tax bill.
When do the commissioners have to vote on this, and will the state define all of this, when, so that they're making a informed
vote?
decision?
I think the commissioners are going to vote for it regardless. I think they're going to continue to vote for it. They took it away once. I don't see them saying, oh yeah, we're going to. In fact, the last times we heard the commissioners, if it benefits local taxpayers, we're going to continue to do it. I think they're going to continue to do it. I don't, and we have forecasted for that. I do not foresee a scenario, and
Okay.
maybe I guess that's being conservative.
Well, I think we have to anticipate, right?
Yes.
We can only do, yeah.
So you went all the way forward again, and I was still looking at slide 30. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I have a
We
few
can go back.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Want me to go back?
I don't know who
Yes,
was doing
thank
that.
you.
I've got a question on it. So say, I'm just gonna look at 2030, you've got revenue, you've got new levy, you have expenditures, is the building included in the expenditures? And the board will have to approve that expenditure every year.
Every year, yes.
Is that included in here?
Yes, yes.
So we're anticipating the revenue on the 1% income tax would go up 2% a year based on the fact that you think average wages will go up by 2%.
That,
But healthcare and things like that sometimes go up 5 to 8%.
they will,
And we start,
they
how,
will.
so, and we're tying ourselves into building, and then we're tying ourselves into that large expenditure that's rolled into that number, and now that begins to eat away faster and faster at what we have left for operating.
There is no question, to your point, that the absolute safest way to build a building is a bond issue. That's guaranteed money that can't be spent on anything other than a building. I concur. If we could pass that, I would be all about that. So I understand what you're saying. Is there a risk involved? Absolutely, there's a risk involved, but just, it's the same as taking out a $15 million COPS. It's the same thing. I mean, theoretically, the district could fail to make that payment and then be foreclosed on. That's possible.
But that's not gonna happen, and we're gonna pay that first, and we're gonna deal with what's left. I guess that's my point.
I would say that's the same thing, that would have to be the same thing
Correct. I
as it
mean, that's-
relates to this.
I think that's the point, and then
Yes.
we make that required payment, and now because other expenses have gone up more than 2, and I get it, we're guaranteeing ourselves at least 2, which is better than 0.
I agree. I understand your concern.
Okay, is the earned income tax like a continuous thing? It doesn't
Yes,
need
it's
renewed,
continu-
it's on the books?
Continuing.
Okay.
If we ever got funded differently, for instance, the state makes our funding formula, no longer unconstitutional, right? Like, could we go back and,
Well, one of the things you could do, most recently, Parma, there was an article someone sent me on, Joe, Mr. Odino, on Parma schools, where they're seeking a 1.5% income tax, but they're going to remove some of their property tax levies in response to the income tax.
Yeah, I don't know what the legal requirements are to give back income tax. I don't know if you'd have to say we're not gonna collect that and then try and pass a new one at a lesser amount. I don't know, I don't even know how that would work.
Well, that would be for removing an income tax. Parma's only removing,
Well, right, they're removing their property.
Yeah, but
would
my
there
point
ever
is
be a
saying-
hypothetical where we'd want to?
Well, the state starts funding us
Something like
differently.
I see. Oh, I see.
I mean, we
Yeah.
can be hopeful
Well,
that
you would
someday
assume-
we can get funded properly.
You would hope that at that point, they would say, this is the way we're doing it going forward. All of your income tax processes are null and void starting in this country.
Yeah, that would be my only, if something changed.
Or you could pull back the property tax.
Well, and also, as a reminder, the Budget Commission, or the County Budget Commission is different now, where the County Budget Commission can adjust if they see too much in carryover. They can go through and adjust and pull back levies or pull back collection. Again, it's a property tax adjustment for an income tax, which the argument of perceived fairness is there as well, because earned income is coming from certain population of property tax. Again, we're shifting the burden off our businesses onto our families, which is that's a big shift in the whole
Surely they'll
Thank
pay
you.
us more.
education structure.
Yep.
The state?
No,
Oh,
the businesses.
Yeah, they would love.
So
Okay.
real quick, I want to go back again. I want to get us back to the operating, what we're going to do, right? So buildings and operating. Belinda, I didn't get a chance to follow up with you. You said at this point you don't think you're not there. So I'm just trying to understand kind of what other concerns you have. Can you share with, like, what else you're concerned about saying, hey, let's move forward with the recommendation of operating and facilities? What else? Because you said you just weren't there yet, so I'm just trying to understand a little bit more.
I can't put it into words, I'm just not there yet.
Yeah, I'm going to
I can't.
speak a little bit because I've struggled with it a little bit. And I did a lot of homework on this and had a lot of conversations just to glean what people are thinking out there. I mean, you can't even go through the checkout at Drug Mart on Cryo Road that there isn't a senior working, and that there was a new gentleman the other day, and I said, hello, you're new, and he says, yep. He said, I turned 65, I lost my disability, and now I've got to work to pay my taxes. There's a lot of that out there. Yes, they're working. Is it going to be a lot of money on an earned income tax because they have this
It's
job?
It's zero money on an earned income tax if they're,
No, it doesn't.
well, oh, no.
If
no,
they're
no,
working a
that's-
job
you're
to
right,
pay
no.
their
No,
taxes,
you're right, no.
a chunk
check
is
that.
gonna come out.
Yeah, it's not the
Yeah,
retirement.
because
yes.
that's what
True.
is happening
True.
with a
True.
lot of people,
That is
including
true.
myself. I guess I go back to, and I don't know if this helps you at all, but needs and wants. We obviously, I think everyone at this table would agree, we have, the operational needs are paramount. Would I like to see a new high school or new facilities? I mean, obviously, we've been on this track to improve and right-size our district and get there, but I can't ignore the economy and the people I interface with that I'm worried. And especially in terms of, we put it out there before in a good economy, and it went down by 75%.
There's, I'll disagree with you, but no matter what we put forward, someone's pocketbook is going to get hit. The 1% is, in my opinion, the least amount of human beings that get hit. And I don't know at what point and what age the school reaches before it transitions from a want to a need.
Yeah,
Meaning, I think this, I think a new school has surpassed us just kind of saying it's a magic wand want. It, at some point, has to become an absolute need. Because we talk about what's left in our PI fund, at some point, this school is going to have, I mean, knock on wood, but some catastrophe, hopefully that doesn't involve the harm of anybody, well, we're not gonna have the money to do it.
I suppose my biggest thing is I think people need to have choice. And we're taking away their choice for one or both by saying, you don't have a choice, you have to do all of it. And maybe some people just can't afford that right now. It's a really crappy economy, and if we're gonna ask for something, I would rather us just take it a little slower than that. I don't know, like, I'm just, again, I'm not sold yet.
Well, this
In
is
my
this-
22
I'm sorry.
years of my career, I think if you ask certain people at any time, some of them are always going to say that the economy is crappy. In all of my 22 years working. Okay, I started working in during the Great Recession, and the last time you asked, it was during COVID, and property construction prices were even higher then. There's never going to be a right time if you're looking for the perfect time.
Yeah, and the thing is, I haven't had a lot of conversation, although we have some representation here, but dual income homes, because it isn't just one income, it's two incomes out of that household. So, you know, you also have to think about that, and people are trying to make ends meet, and people are stressed financially. I mean, maybe not everybody is, but it's a tough economy. I want to set us up for success. That's my bottom line. I'm just thinking, what's the best path to do that without a failure?
Well, our second look at this, if you're ready to talk about that, is operational needs only. Adamantly opposed to two issues being on the ballot at the same time. Adamantly opposed to that.
Can you explain what you mean by that real quick, so everybody's on the same page?
However you frame it, if it's a bond issue or however it is, that you can vote yes or no for an operating levy, and you can vote yes or no for a building on the same ballot. Absolutely no. That's fiscally irresponsible. Chances are it would doom both of them anyways, quite frankly. But if it didn't, and a building somehow were to pass, we have now just increased our operational costs
With no way to-
with no way to pay for it. So if the idea is to separate them, to give people choice, which that makes sense to me, if that is in fact the will of the board, then I would ask that we go this route. Reduce the ask. If it's yes, then it's still win, still a win. But reduce the ask, and then at a later date, come back for a facility if that's the will of the board. I would tell you that it's hypercritical that 5 people are on board and 5 people are supporting it.
There's also the concern of having two separate issues that a lot of people, and I don't mean to disrespect anyone who would go to the ballot box, but might not understand what they're voting for, and both could lose. Because you have a percentage voting for yes for this and a percentage voting yes for the other. So there's also that concern.
Well, there's a big communication factor here in that most people are not, they've never been presented with the income tax to really understand how is that going to work for me. Because we're always asking for levies and that they're so frequent, and this is a one and done, is what you're saying.
All of our levies
All
are.
levy, all of
No,
it.
I'm saying
With
an
the-
income
yeah.
tax would
Well, yeah,
be,
with the exception of the joint financing, all of our levies are continuous, and we did that, so there is not, there hasn't been an ask for
Yeah.
a long time, and that ask has been on, property tax, because that was always the way that schools were funded.
yeah.
I think the shift in policy from businesses to the homeowner, coupled with the large-scale appreciation, put property tax as target number one, and public enemy number one. And I think that is, I think everyone who you poll about property taxes, if you just say, hey, what do you think about property tax? Everyone will tell you, well, I don't want to pay them. But then when you start to have a conversation with them about what they actually pay for and why, they start to understand that portion, that they are useful. And that there is a point, and I want the services, I don't necessarily want to, if that's the way to get the services, that's where they are. I think it's a bigger, it is a much bigger issue than just, hey, what do you want? I think the other thing that with property tax that really limits it, and Dr. Thompson has, if he's done nothing else, he's hammered it home, they don't grow with inflation. So it's a fixed sum ask. We have to go out and guess what we're asking for, and then we're stuck with that, and we make that stretch, and we stretch that we squeeze blood out of a rock from where they're at till we're ready to go back again, and we continue to do that. And part of that is there is some, when we made a bunch of significant cuts, we did not bring everything back. We didn't bring half of those things back. We brought some things back to provide the experience, but the experience is different now than it was prior to that when we made significant cuts for our students. It is. That's a portion of even part of the reductions we're making just through making smart fiscal decisions and making decisions based on we are changing the things. COVID put it in during those COVID years. The one thing we didn't remember was money. Money was great. We were getting money from. We were well funded. And all schools were pretty well funded, some even more than Riverside. But I think really, and that goes back to where we are funded from that first chart, 71% of our funds are from a local fund. That is the third highest in Lake County. And where you look at where our businesses are, they're not as much, they're not all Class B, they're all Class A. That's the majority of our funds come from our local homeowner here. And I would say, if you just looked at Class A funds, and I'm sure we can figure this out somewhere, we're probably the top, because we don't have the base that Wycliffe has, nor do we have the base that Willoughby has. And I think part of those fundings too also include the new funds that Wycliffe just paid for that brand new campus, which came through. That's a significant amount. Willoughby has all the school funding that are also coming. Well, Mentor has a huge industrial base. matter that we don't have. We have some industry, but not nearly industry of the others. And I think that's a pretty significant shift in where we're at. So I know that's a shift. I also think, you know, when you look at what earned income is versus all income, you know, the two-family income, we fully understand.
Well,
That is a legitimate, that's a legitimate challenge with this method of funding schools.
Can I give
Yeah.
I'm sorry, can I just give a perspective on that? In my opinion, 1% on one person who's bringing in 200,000 is harder than when, this is assuming there's two adults in the household when I say this, than when both of them are bringing in, say, 200,000 and they're paying 1% each. Now you're bringing 400,000 into the house. There's money to supplement the loss, in my opinion. So I honestly think that coming from a house where both my wife and I are both income earners, I see that being easier in that scenario than when just one spouse is making money and the other isn't.
Yeah, I've had a chance to talk to a bunch of different people, from people with young children in our district to people who have no children left in the district, and even some of my neighbors that are retired. And I think the more open, I'll be honest, I'm struggling with any of our solutions as far as how to fund this, right? Because I don't think there's one that's perfect. But when I look at this,
Yeah, I would agree.
and I just Googled some numbers because I understand the two, and I have a household with 2 working people in the household. On average, they said, which I think this is low, but this is what the internet said, is 2 working people in a household is an average income of $90,000, which seems low to me. Might be old numbers, but let's just go with that. I'm at 1% in divided by 12. So how much would that be a month for them? It's $75 a month. So again, I understand it's more money. I get it. We don't have a perfect solution. The perfect solution would be that the state funds us appropriately, but I don't think we're going to see that. We do have needs. We have operational needs, that's definite, and I think we do have facility needs. So again, we just heard, if we don't do any, like, we have to hold this PI money that we're going to have left because of what we've inherited, then for a possible emergency. So again, I understand needs and wants, but I think we're probably more towards the need side on the facilities, even more on the need side with the operational money. So I think it's important that we just don't talk to one base of our entire district. We have to talk to everybody, young kids, no kids, retired, everybody, because there's no perfect solution for any of them.
Right, and the thing that would complicate this in being able to sell whatever approach we go is the fact that we don't have clarity to explain what the state is doing, how much income we're really going to, in other words, how this is going to look with the taxes they're already paying. You know, when are we going to know that? Because that feeds into November or May. When are we going to know what the state is doing?
I haven't known what the
Wait a
state's doing for 50 years.
Well, but seriously, because we have to explain, well, I'm paying this amount and we have to explain why, where's that money going?
Well,
And
but they need to look at their property tax bills to understand where that money's going. That's not our.
No, but what Dr. Rotino said is that the state is changing this about,
They've changed their
and there
laws.
may be a rebate.
Those laws have been put in place. It's how those laws are going to get actually enacted and when they come out is the biggest. And I don't know if they're done addressing property tax reform yet.
Okay.
I think there's still some things that are out there that are going to continue to look at. Because I will say there is also a group that is working to put an amendment on to just get rid of all property tax, and nobody knows what's going to happen if that amendment makes it to the ballot and if it passes, and what that looks like, because you have all the money that's bonded in property tax, and where does that go from? So I think that's like, those are all questions and those are all hypotheticals that we don't have the answers to. To some point, they're starting to make some adjustments to that, but I do think what I heard Dr. Zern say when he spoke was the average adjustment from the rollback to our families was about $120 annually.
Yes.
And that was something that he came out with. And I know that we've had some conversations with him about what this looks like from the entire, from that perspective. I do think too, you talk about House Bill 920 and how it impacts us as it brings everything down, but House Bill 920 also, if we see a huge depreciation in house values, like we have a housing market
2009.
crash,
2009.
House Bill 920 would come in and then say, okay, now your house is valued so much less, now you owe us more. So it adjusts it back up. So it works in both ways. We typically only see it when it works in terms of house, and especially now, we're only seeing this because we're seeing the big impact in housing evaluation. The housing markets just jump up astronomically, especially in this area.
Yeah. So are you talking about the guarantee, so if there's a loss, we don't lose? Is that what you're talking about?
So we are on the guarantee from state funding. Our
Yeah.
state funding has stayed the same forever.
Right.
It does not change, and they've
Okay.
never funded that fair school funding formula. But
Okay.
that's a whole different thing. This is in terms of where
The house.
it is so complex, and they're trying to put a simple fix in for a complex problem. It's so complex because we were at the 20 mil floor, now we're not, so now we're still collecting where we're at, but we're really close. So the next reevaluation will probably get to the 20 mil floor, but we're not gonna see the gains that we used to have because we're not there, and even if we did, you can only gain 3%. So you're not, there are a lot of districts that we're seeing who are on the ballot now, who are looking at larger sums and all that, who have seen a larger impact to this because of it. We're not seeing that impact yet, but we're starting to see some impact where we count on a little bit of an increase, and what we're seeing is, $500,000-$600,000 increase, and we're seeing a $500,000-$600,000 decrease giving back. We're seeing it help for a year, then we're starting to see less next year. But those are, and then you've got the other things that hit too. You got the rollback, you got insurance costs, all of that have compounded to where we are now. And it's only getting worse because the property tax reform that we're seeing is not, it is not impactful, and we're gaining at most 2% every 3 years. So it's not even 2% a year. It's 2% or 3% every 3 years. So it's a percent. So what we are saying is we are coming back and back again to the local tax owner. And then you throw in some of these other levies or some of these other laws that say, hey, if it gets, and we're hearing it's not going to get traction, but it might if continuous levies all of a sudden aren't a thing anymore. If that gets traction too now, it is, we are, yes,
Yeah.
it is,
But to address the question of, we need to have these questions answered before we can move forward, which is logical and understandable. Logical and understandable. I'm telling you, it's not possible though. It's not practical. Look, guys, we don't know what's going to happen. So we're going to kick the can another year. That's our deficit. Look at where we are, folks. And if we're just going to do an operational levy, which that would be our second recommendation, at least what I'm hearing right now, there's no way we're going to get consensus on a building. And we don't have time to kick this 2 more weeks down the road. We don't. So we need to be on the ballot in November, and we need to be on it for operational funds. At least that. At least
Why
that.
do you feel like you need 100% consensus?
Because if you go out into a community with something that is as controversial as a building and income tax and something new and all of that, and it comes out to a 3-2 vote, we will not pass. We
That's
need,
part of why our last one failed by.
yeah, we need all 5 people singing the same song, preaching the same message, and believing in it. And there are reasons not to. I'm not judging anybody here. But I'm saying, please, as your fiscal officer, we got to be on the, if we can't do a building, and I'm hearing we're not.
Well, I don't know that we've heard that. I guess,
I don't know that we've heard that either. I'm just.
Yeah,
where are you at?
Okay.
I'm still, let's keep moving forward, I'm not saying no. So you're sensing some hesitancy. I don't think it's hesitancy, I think it's legitimate questions. So I don't think we're all ready to say that it can't be a 5-0 vote. But I see where you're coming from, that
I'm not doing that, but.
if there's two people here, for example, if two people vote no, there's constituents who would go with that just based off of what they know of that board member. Sure, but I don't think we're at the point where we're all saying there's no momentum to move forward.
Well, and I guess that's why I keep asking, so where are you at kind of right now as far as Chris, as Dr. Rotino's vision?
I am.
I'm not saying give a yes or no vote, I'm just trying to understand where you're at.
Yes, I see the 1% in November being the most logical choice as of right now.
Well, but I'm
Is that
talking
your
about
question?
the vision of operating in facilities.
Yes.
Okay. Jimmy Lee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Belinda, I hear you're not there yet
I
with the
feel-
facilities.
I feel like I need to hear from people, from our community a little bit more.
And Denise, where are you at?
I've tried to talk to some people, but I don't think I've talked to a big enough cross-section. But I did get some feedback today from, this presentation. But I think I go back to, we're in stressed economic times, and
I guess what I'm asking though, I understand.
I'm probably definitely at operations.
Dr. Rotino, you've had some meetings with our community. Can you tell us what you're hearing?
So I think I think of those who have showed up to our strategic plan focus groups, we opened it to the entire community. Of those who have showed up, facilities has been a priority. They have come out and they've said they are ready for us to address the high school facilities. Going back and looking at our surveys, both in the most recent one in 24 and the one in 19, secondary facilities is a priority to this community and addressing it. I do believe that of those, even in the prior bond issue that was out there, there was a loud contingency that said that this building is sacred to them and it is very important to them. And I think we've addressed that in our modeling, whether we build brand new and revision it, but build it so that it looks the same, or whether we build the hybrid approach and build onto it. We are addressing that. That came out very loud and clear in everything we've ever done, even with our alumni and all of that, when you talk with them about facilities. And I joke all the time, our alma mater is written about the halls, and the pink color on the halls, when we call it the halls of Ivy. It is that important to this community, and I think that we have honored that past, and even in the other parts of the story of the field house, we are honoring the past that got the field house to where we are, and yet we are looking to how do we supplement that, how do we continue to build through that, and how do we preserve our future. We have talked a lot about what that looks like in moving forward. So I think we've addressed a lot of the issues that came out. The other parts that you heard into why it failed, yes, obviously there's an active campaign against it. I wouldn't suspect any less of a campaign to that. I think in some of them we've addressed, going through this building. Look, yes, there are strong walls here. Every one of you talk to with new construction versus old, they don't build them like they used to. There is something to that standpoint. There's also something to the fact of yeah, she's got good bones. The bones are good, but we need to do a lot with the pipes and all of that, and how we address what that is. I think that there's a lot of discussion that's there, but I know our community who are coming out to support and to give their opinion on whether they have students or not. We have those who don't have students in there are mentioning we need to address our secondary facilities.
How many people came to the focus groups, the recent ones?
Um,
Because I know it was over the holiday too.
We've had about 30 or 40. I mean, there's been, we're sending a survey out. They're going to have facilities questions on there as well. I am going to tell you that survey is going to come back with the same issues that we need to address our facilities. We'll send it out to as many people as we can. We'll make it visible. We'll get it to our constituents. I will tell you that has been something that's come up when we need to do something and we need to act. I think we hit it with Buckeye. We're addressing that and are having 3 elementary schools that are going to be equitable in their services that they provide and provide that same kind of experience. And I think this is the last step in there.
If I can add
So,
something to
Two
this.
questions.
Sorry.
Just because people can't see the rendering, and this is the first time I'm seeing it. So the media center and John R. would not be there anymore?
So,
Well, I don't think that we know for
No,
sure.
we don't know.
But
I'm
that's-
just looking at
It
the
was,
drawing, I just wanted to
so
know.
that
what
drawing
was
has the media center and John are being demolished.
For pretend.
Okay,
Yeah.
And it was,
right,
and that was
okay.
to be honest, that meeting, we set that meeting up to get some costing estimates as to, because we had heard and we assumed, our assumption was renovating and just completely renovating or any type of renovation would be astronomical compared to just building new. We've heard that all the
Yeah.
time, that is, and TDA came back with, hey, here's a solution where they're pretty close. And that was something that we were not on the, we didn't even think that was an option.
But we know
Which
with
is
renovation
interesting.
that once you start opening these walls, you don't know what you're going to.
That
That's-
is true as well.
That, the contingency's built in.
And again, which is
looking at
interesting
all this
because
stuff.
TDA gave us the date of the last time we did this.
Because they-
So
Construction was a lot more expensive then.
I'm gonna go on record and I think everybody understands, I am not against facilities. I have been a proponent of facilities since 2009 when I ran for board, the first time I ran for board. I'm all for facilities. I'm not sold on the method of
Well,
how we do it.
perfect.
So I just need you to hear, I can get behind a building. I don't know if I can wrap my head around this stuff yet.
Sure.
I'm not there. And I can't vote for that yet if I,
I understand.
right? So I want people to understand I can wholeheartedly get behind a building, we all know that, but
That's what I was trying to get at.
Yes.
So I'm looking at this as two different things.
it's two different topics.
So that's the
So-
win, and I think that was our concern as well, because again, it's an abbreviated timeline. That was so when we have when Dr. Thompson and I said, when we talk about hours, we keep going back, and it's a big circle we spin around, because really and truly, May is ideal for getting all the wind together, who the partners are. We've had conversations with community partners to say, hey, we want to do this. We think this would be a great example. Put a community center in, so we get more buy-in, because if you provide a community center or a senior center or something like to that aspect, and we find alternate funding for them, and we're building construction, so now all of a sudden costs are reduced for them as well because you've got scale. Having all of that information as a part of this project, we think that's a critical piece to it and component to it. That all takes some time because they all have boards or they all have directors and bringing them to the table. And that wasn't a part of the original plan. It was about a school. And our school is more than a school. I mean, we don't have a community hub. This can provide that. And
But I
that's the
believe that's
vision.
gonna take a lot longer than a month.
Absolutely.
Right, so like, that's why I'm not there yet, and it's gonna be a process to get there, not, hey, 4 weeks from now, we're gonna vote on something, I'm still not gonna be there, we're not gonna have a ton of these questions answered.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the numbers up there, and I know we didn't put in the 2%. Is casement development proceeds that thing,
It's not,
it's not in
even
there?
started yet. I mean, so we
there's
don't
no
know.
assumption of.
I just, I just talked to somebody who said they are moving to.
this question is for both of you. You gave us the hypothetical of we do it in November and it fails, and then we do it in May, and here's our financial situation. What we didn't look over is if we do it in May and it fails, and then we do it in the following November. Right, so what would be the situation then? I don't
Well,
expect you to have that off the top of your
Remember,
head.
Go one more.
if you pass or fail in May, or you pass in November,
It's the same.
it makes no difference in terms of collection. Because,
Same calendar year.
you only get a half collection in that first year. So we would get collections in January of 2027, but, no, 2028, sorry, 2028 and starting in January, but it'd only be a half collection. And that wouldn't begin until January, whether we passed in May or we pass in
I
November.
And
think
income tax, however,
collects different.
will not
It's
collect
by
till
quarterly.
2029.
It takes 2 years essentially to ramp all
So
the
if
way
you go
up.
But
one
then-
more,
Right.
so go one more year on here?
Then you're not collecting until January 29th.
So,
Correct.
correct, so can you hit the button one more time?
Yes,
Because
so,
if the year you pass your income tax,
So-
you're passing it for the following year, and then they're gonna do tax returns the following year.
so we don't go on this November, say we don't, or we fail, either one. Now we're to here. So this is the hole we're digging out of, and we would begin to get a half collection here. So that's the hole we're digging out
On
of.
property tax.
On a property tax, that's correct.
Well-
Income tax would even be slightly longer,
Income tax, so let me make sure,
but income tax is so much
If we go to the ballot
more.
in 2027, you can't go back and pro-act, or,
Pre-collect.
yeah, thank you.
What's the word? I didn't hear it.
Retroactively implement income tax in January.
You're voting in May, we're gonna go back to January to collect it? Yeah, I'm gonna be against that.
No, you can't do that.
It's starting in January the following year.
That's
Right,
correct. That's
so-
correct.
Right,
Yes.
So
it's
so
a whole
technically you don't
2
get it
years.
until
the year after that.
So-
29.
Yeah.
So for example, if we did a bond issue, just say
Yeah.
a traditional bond issue, you're gonna be able to begin construction faster than you would if you did an income tax, because you have to wait for those funds to start receiving those funds.
And an income tax, you're gonna get it over 4 quarters, you're gonna get it in 4 installments, you're not gonna get it in one lump sum either. You're gonna
Well,
get
we
a
get
big
it-
chunk in.
We get it in 2 now.
Income tax though, in
Income
income
tax
tax, you'll get a big chunk in April, and then you're gonna get it in July, October, and then the following January, because that's when people are paying their taxes and
Yeah.
that's when they're paying their estimates. We collected income tax at Ledgemont, and that was our cycle, was 4 quarterly.
So
Right.
let's
The one
flip the
thing-
discussion a little bit.
Well, going back to case, I just want to go back to Casement and even any of the other developments that we didn't have a say in those. As the residents move in, if they are earning and bringing students, we collect on them when they move in, if that income tax is on the books. Whereas in Casement or any of the others, those properties, they're
They're
subject to
2 year.
920. We see a little bit from the new growth, but overall, we're not seeing the amount of growth we would get. If we expect all of these families to come in, having this structure in place is more beneficial for us as a school, because now that is additional income, not just a leveled income where new housing goes back to the whole pool. So you get some, but you don't get the overall impact that you thought you would get, because you get some on the inside roads, but not on the other ones.
I guess I would be
920.
a little bit more comfortable if I could see this a little bit more detailed. Just-
Which part?
Yeah.
You need more lines, like more P&L-esque lines?
Yes, and more years and scenario, like this is what happens and we pass it here and this is what we collect and this, like, I would like to see those line items in there individually. Here's the revenue from the income tax and this is what's gonna go for facility, because and
I could break
what the
that.
expectations are
Yeah,
for
so I hear
general
you.
operations, because again, some of our expenditures for operations are going up more than 2%.
Oh,
Steve, what-
they're all going up more than
Steve,
2%.
why do we not forecast out farther than 5 years?
Well, I can tell you in my experience, I would tell you the viability of a 5-year forecast isn't even that great.
Yep.
If you look at a 5-year forecast, year 1 should be rock solid. Year 2 is usually pretty good. Year 3 is shaky. Year 4s and 5s are way
But it
off.
would be good to just say, here's my assumptions, and this is what it's,
You wanna
this
be
is
able
what
to plug
it
and
is,
play.
like, just.
Yeah.
what
just-
I mean, I could stretch it out to 10 years for sure. I mean, I don't know the accuracy of that, but because there's just so many intangibles
I mean,
and
all of
variables
the-
that I don't know to account for.
All of the
But I
things
can do
being-
that if it helps.
All other things being equal, this is what it would look like if these are our assumptions, like.
Yeah, and I have 2 things. Going back to Casement, we have 2 new board members and a new treasurer who is not, I don't know if you've seen what was the agreement and how we're recouping 100% back off that deal and how it looks over a period of 30 years, correct?
It's longer than 30 years.
Yes, but we
because
need,
it's in
I think
5
it would be
phases.
helpful to see it. People need to know that's on the horizon, that's part
But
of our
it's so
financial.
far out because we don't know when it's gonna happen. So you can't even project it right now because we don't know when
We keep,
it's gonna start.
it was supposed to be
Yeah.
people in houses, well, by this fall, and they're not gonna hit that.
Yeah, and I get it,
And
but I
so
still
they're-
think we
they're-
need to see it.
They're
But-
a year or two out, so you gotta push it back,
Yeah,
which I think we could look at what that looks like.
Can
yeah.
you briefly explain what she's referring to? the
So we have
collections?
so the board voted for a TIF for casement, and it's in 5 phases.
Can you explain what TIF means?
TIF is a tax incentive
Tax and incremental funding.
to which the city actually, they give them a tax break, and they still collect taxes like they would. Those monies go to the developer to put in, the developer in the township to put in infrastructure, to develop the infrastructure, kind of start the project up as a bond.
Possible amenities?
Sold as a bond. Yeah, there's going to be I think they're putting in a town center.
So taxpayers are funding this essentially.
The casement property, the
Yes.
casement owners themselves are buying into it for the next.
Oh, it's just,
It's just for that specific area. That is a unique area as well, because when you buy into the casement property, Batesville Township has an additional $5 million bonus on there for each of those houses that go just to funding the township. I mean, they kind of say it's like an association fee instead of having an association, but typically we see those are a mill, these are 5. It's a large number that's gonna fund the township and township.
But basically what it's doing is they're asking us for the money to fund it up front.
Yeah.
So we don't collect the tax.
But what's unusual about this agreement was that typically, like, I know in Concord, we didn't get 100%. We
So.
weren't made 100%, whereas this one we are.
In stat, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, in statutory law, a township can just say to any new development, we are going to put a 10-75, which means over 10 years, 75% of the taxes they are pulling from us, the tax that will come from us, they're pulling those and using them for whatever, we would still get 25%. They don't need us to agree to that, they can just do it because, hey, this is what we can do, and they said we can, we're going to do it. That happened with us at the Pulte Home Development by Casement Concord did that. And the new one off of Prouty, they did a 10-year, they didn't do 75, it was 10-60 on those. And those are larger houses, they'll pull those. After 10 years, then we get 100% of the tax funds that would come from it.
But
Again,
you don't get
but you
reimbursed
don't.
for those
You
years.
don't
get.
either. And it also is just to, that increase goes just an inside millage. It does not impact all this stuff that is outside of that, because those are subject to 920, so everybody else's tax bill goes down a little bit when those taxes come online, because you can only collect what you said you were gonna collect. So it only deals with like the 4 inside mills that we have, so we're not seeing the huge growth that gets there. What a TIF is a TIF is a negotiated agreement where we said for anything longer than 10 years or 75%, we said to, we worked with the township and the developer, we're all part of it, to say, we're amenable to this, but what does it look like from that end? So what this one is upfront, we only get, I don't think we get anything for the first 2 years upfront. After that, we start to see some of the proceeds back. Anything above what's predicted, we split the difference. So we're guesstimating what these properties are gonna sell for, and by lending those funds in bonds. Anything more than that, we work to split those, because I think they estimated the average home in there to go for $400,000 and went on that. If they sell for over that, then there's extra money that comes there. That can go to the township, or we negotiated where that money goes as well, because it's not a straight, it's not a straight agreement. So we do get made whole, but it takes us 10 years, I think, till we get made whole. And it's
Per
pretty,
section.
per section. It's a pretty decent, we'll put that spreadsheet in there. It's very complex as to how to figure it out.
Can you put the agreement out there for them?
I'm sure I can
Yeah,
figure it out.
Can you
yeah.
put it in the board Just, we'll put it in the board folder, so you have it.
I think the challenge is though, until they start building, until homes start selling, there's no guaranteed funds. So you asked about why don't we forecast out past 5 years? They forecasted
Well, I mean, I know the
30
answer.
plus, right, and now they forecasted 30 plus years already on year one, which should be solid, they haven't started building.
Default.
Okay, so
So, you know what I'm saying, like, yeah.
one of the things I wanted to ask about, you know, the forecast is there's negotiations coming up, right?
Yes, good point. So I have a placeholder in negotiations. If we don't hit said placeholder, then those numbers will be worse.
You mean you have a place order in the forecast?
I do.
Okay. Great.
And, I mean, it's public record, it's 2%. But they haven't seen 2% in a while. Those would be,
It's, well, and it's not,
Low.
it's, I didn't mean to speak for you, it's also healthcare increases. And we're forecasting at least 10 for healthcare.
so if, I mean, you never know, 10 has been pretty steady.
The last 2 years of
Yeah.
that.
So your forecast has 2% raise, 10% healthcare adjustment.
Plus steps, and of course, we've calculated steps, we included steps. So steps are in. Some of the things that are a bit harder to project is column movements, that impacts. So we account for some of that, but that's a year-to-year guess. But if you put in 222, it's always difficult. Some treasurers put in zeros, and I'm opposed to that because it artificially inflates your 5-year forecast. And so as a board, you look at it and you think, oh, it's not so bad. And then a contract comes and they're 2.5, 3,
As a
and all of a
community,
sudden
you
your
don't feel like
5-year
it's not
forecast is blown to smithereens. So,
On expenditures, is there, I would assume maintenance would go down, there'd be less money needing to go into
Facilities.
Facilities, is that factored in there?
no, not at this point. There would be some degree of savings, but the additional increase in expenditures or operational costs are air conditioning now. Now you're running air for a pretty big building when before you didn't pay for air.
I think too, for a 5-year forecast, we wouldn't, I mean, it's a 5-year project. I would think too, so you wouldn't have to build a new building online and everything completed and wrapped up.
I guess just from a very practical perspective, only very practical perspective, is regardless of what, if we're going to be on the ballot this November, regardless of what it is, especially if it's a building where we, again, Chris and I talked about it for hours. We even thought about even pulling the recommendation, quite frankly, because we were so worried about it being so tight up against November. If we wait another 2 or 3 weeks to make this decision, I think it renders us in a pretty hopeless position.
I mean, there is that, you don't want to, you want to be as transparent as you can and be out there and say, this is what we're on the ballot for, this is what we're doing, these are the renderings and all of that, and to get and those things, there's a lot of work.
There's time
to that, and time to that, and effort that goes into that, and there are only so many hours in the day. I think that's, and I think it's put out, the challenge, and Belinda, you hit it right on it. I mean, the challenge truly is that perfect plan is not a building in November with a bond issue.
Even if it's not with the bond issue, that's neither here nor there. I don't know if is there any real downside to saying, go in November for operational and then go in May? I'm just asking,
Yeah,
what is the...
From my perspective, if we can't go on a building, absolutely we go operational in November,
Right,
at least.
which
At
makes
least
sense.
operational.
But I think what Belinda's asking is, what's the risk of putting the operations on in November in the building on later.
I mean, like, what are you thinking the risks are? Because quite frankly, I'm not quite certain I feel that there is. Do you know what I mean?
So
Like,
I think the risks are we're sitting in a 75-year-old building that's had a couple years where they haven't necessarily maintained it. All of the things that could go right now are incredibly expensive.
but even at that, even if you went November versus May,
You still have
still
it.
5 years out. I mean, like, what difference does it
So
make? You
I-
still have that.
Yeah, so
My
Fairport's
question
a great
for the.
example.
Yeah,
They-
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, they have their new building, they're ready to go, they're ready to open it. It's delayed a little bit because of construction. October, their boilers go in the original building, and they have to heat that building from October till January when they can get occupancy. That's an additional cost. Now, you can do it with temporary boilers and working things and all that. But that's a legitimate, that's a thing every year.
I get it, but I don't
Yeah.
think we're Fairport either. And I think we have a different type of a budget than they do. Like,
All fair.
do you know what I mean? Like,
I understand the concern of doing both at one time, right, this quickly, but I also have a concern of doing two separately for this reason. You knock on someone's door and you ask for $10, and then 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, you knock on their door and ask for another $10. Regardless of the dollar amount, they're saying, you're at my door again. Whereas if you had asked for $20 originally, you might have gotten a yes. But the fact that you're knocking twice, meaning the fact that we're going to ask the community to go to the ballot box twice, run 2 campaigns, get the momentum for people to get out of the house, and it also depends on what else is on the ballot. If there's other things on the ballot, it could be to our detriment or to our benefit. It depends. It also depends on what party's in power. That determines a lot of whether educational things pass or not. So there's just a lot to consider. So I do have a hesitancy of splitting it.
I think it will be very telling what happens in May. Okay, like,
I agree with you.
I believe that I don't say we should sit back and sit on our laurels and not do any work, but I'm just saying, I think it'll be very interesting to see
I would agree with that.
how well or how poorly they do in May, and take a listen to that. Do you know what I'm saying? We've got
Wycliffe's on, there's a whole bunch of.
Well, I think
Yeah.
across the state there, I haven't seen the exact numbers because
it'll just be interesting.
But I would agree. I think the majority of the new money issues are earned income that I have seen. I've not seen a lot of traditional.
I haven't seen any.
Property tax.
Nobody. I don't know. I
Other
don't
than
even know.
Menor. Menor's the one that I know.
They're putting property tax on?
It's
Yes.
49.
I don't even know. I don't know anybody who
They're
does.
doing nothing.
Who's that?
They're not, I just saw that article today.
Yeah.
Well,
So what's the dates again? Let me ask you this.
June.
I guess I want to step back 1 second. Let's twist this a little bit. I went more, do we agree with the vision, right? Let's step back and say, does anybody disagree that we think we should be on the ballot in October? Not for what, just be on the
November.
ballot. November. Sorry, yes.
Special
She's
election.
just-
Yes, we really shouldn't be on the ballot.
I'm all for October, Lori.
November, okay. I don't even know where October came from, but anyways. Does anybody disagree that we should be on the ballot in November?
Or
Not
It's
for, just
Anything.
Something.
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 Bag of chips.
But more than a bit, okay, let's just say for at least operating,
Yes.
we should be on in November.
Yes.
Yeah.
That I can agree on.
Okay. What do we need to do, so these guys know what we want them to start going after, to say, we want, if they can go on, if we should be on the ballot for in November for operating and facilities? What do we need to do to add that second piece of the recommendation?
I mean, wouldn't we have to say it had to be a fully baked plan? You'd have to have, when I say fully baked, there would have to be all the things that we just mentioned.
Well, but I heard May too. So when you say fully like plan, tell me what you mean by that.
Well, I mean, I see where Ms. Garcia is coming from, that doing it in November without having all the answers to all the questions we're gonna get in the community. So we'd have to have all those answers.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's
I don't know that we'll have all the answers.
Well, we
so-
More.
lost 70 to 30, and we had every flipping answer to every question people wanted to know,
Yeah.
and we still lost 70
Well,
to 30.
yes, but we had board members.
But we had
That's
board
different.
members who were out there telling people we didn't have the answers.
I
So
think
if
that
we
was
really-
a debate between
but-
building, between renovating or building.
But even
No, it was
still,
not
Wasn't
when we
it?
were on the ballot.
let
No.
me finish that train of thought though, because if we still go back out to the public and we don't have the answers to the questions, then we really don't have the answers to the questions, and then I can't fault them for voting 70-30 because we didn't have the answers. We have to have the answers, and I don't think we can have them. The community was brutal with their questioning.
Well, again, I think there was
I get it,
other
but
things
they
that
weren't.
in play at that time.
was
But-
definitely.
but-
Yeah, I don't think
But
it's,
I don't think that I don't believe that you're going to find really.
did we
You're
have all,
still going to come out of the woodwork.
well,
I know that there was something, I remember hearing, wasn't paying 100% attention, but the fact was that there were renderings, but there was no real finite plans.
Because it's never
Well,
the way
I know,
it
but
works.
everybody kept saying, but that would cost a fortune, you know? Am I correct? Because that's what I
It was a
remember hearing.
$163 million ask,
Yeah.
and
but we had,
versus now, 4 years later, it's
And people
$120
are going to
million.
want to know, why is that different?
No, but the
Because it was
renderings-
massively
Well,
overbuilt.
okay, I'm just telling you, they're going to want to know what
Well,
those differences are.
I would say the difference
They
too.
package us
that
Yeah. I also think the difference is in, I mean, yes, you have those, you have the questions, you have those who are the historians. Because I've heard that too, that, you know, that you're not gonna, you know, all of the other things, all we're getting knocked down and that's not what we need. And so you hear that too. So I think part of the answers, we don't have all the answers because but I think we are addressing what we have heard over the years as we've come through is, yeah, we hear you, you love the building, let's build something that either looks like it or isn't. I mean, or we just renovating it, and let's look at that.
But I don't think you can go out and say, it might be one or the other, we have to know which one is it going to be. Which one
I
is
would
it?
agree.
so here, that, yeah,
You
definitely.
have to answer
So
that
here's the
question.
thing, I guess what I need to understand, because I don't know that we'll have, to get on the ballot in November, I do not know that we will have, when you guys say all the answers, I guess I need to understand, and Dr. Tino and Dr. Thompson need to understand, what does all mean? Because again,
You
every
can
single
never-
question is not
Okay,
going to be
maybe
You'll
answered.
almost
never
two,
answer
I guess
all
we're
the
taking the
Because some
definition
people are
too
just not
literal.
going to want
I
it.
don't mean every single
And
possible
as soon as you
question.
answer their question, they'll move the goalpost, and then you'll have to answer another.
So I guess what's the minimum that we need to give? Again, we're not going to have renderings, because we're not going to go out and pay for the renderings right now.
Okay,
right?
we know that then, do we think if we don't have those things, is it even worth us entertaining the idea of doing both in November?
Well, but
That's the question you're
gonna
asking
be-
us, right?
But it's going to be the same thing, no
Who are
matter
the
what.
partners? Who will the partners be if you think that they're going to be partners? Are they willing to do that? What's that look like? What's the structure? How much are they going to give? What's that going to be? What are we going to do with the maintenance facility? What are we going to do with the bus garage? How many square feet is the facility? What are we renovating? What are we rebuilding? Like, those are
The
questions we
partnerships.
have to answer.
Yeah, so I think, so to all Belinda's questions, and this is what I mean by all versus some, I know Dr. Tino and Dr. Thompson are having conversations. They're meeting with the township trustees coming up. They've met with the YMCA. I don't know who else you've talked to.
I'm talking with
UH. They're talking to these people. Can they tell us who is possibly confident that somebody will partner with us, right? They might be able to. Will they be able to answer every single question
I
Belinda
don't
answered?
think that they
I don't
will-
think so.
I don't think they will be able to have those agreements in hand prior,
I-
there it's
there's no, I don't think.
Until
Well-
you're ready to
We
build.
will not
Do you know what I
have
mean?
that.
But
So
again,
you're
I think
not-
what they can say is with
Yeah.
confidence, we think these guys are gonna partner with us.
Yeah.
I would think, I don't agree with that. I believe that those boards will have to like have something that says, we've agreed to partner with you. There will be some agreement that we are agreeing to move forward, and we're setting some parameters. What those look like, who knows, but they're gonna have to come up with that. They're not gonna say, well, yeah, I think we will.
Mr. McIntyre, I'm just gonna, wealth of knowledge, you've worked with a lot of different schools in this kind of situation, I'm assuming. Any kind of thought on how that would work?
Sure. Oftentimes it's done with a general memorandum of understanding that would be reached between the two parties. It's a very brief document. It's essentially aspirational. It's an agreement to agree subject to the development fully of the co-development or the partnering plan. But it all starts where Dr. Rutino says you are right now. Oftentimes, county libraries end up on or near school district property. That's a common model in multiple counties in the state of Ohio. And so that's where you describe things right now. Dr. Rutino is where it all starts. And to say, here are our partners, our potential partners, which is what other districts will do under similar circumstances, is a fair representation to your community, knowing that it's subject to lots of work that's going to take months, if not years, to finalize. But I think the mechanism that you're using is the right one, and to get some momentum around that idea and to be able to share that with the board, hopefully would be enough at this point, because it's really all you can hope for under the circumstances.
Okay. You had asked us, the board members, if we were okay with just operational in November, but I would like to turn the question to the two of you. Do you prefer, if not, that we do operational in November, or we do both in May?
I would I would prefer we would have started a month ago, but we didn't. So here we sit. What I'll say definitively, I think it's a significant mistake not to be on the ballot for at least operations. At least operations.
So you're saying if your
we-
preference would be just at least do operations?
At least do operations, and while we frame our campaign up front, being completely transparent, 0.75, meeting our operational needs. We're working with our partners. We're going to come back in May for an additional increase at 0.25 or a bond issue. I don't care what bond. I'd feel safer with a bond issue if we could pass it. But whatever it is, but we're going to come back. We're going to address our building needs. We need to address our building needs. But all of these questions that are out there, we're not going to have those questions answered by May either. You're just not. We were finalizing partnerships in the midst of construction in Willow Eastlake, but we got them all done.
I would agree, you can't wait until May, not the next year, to ask for operational dollars, because what you're gonna ask for in November is gonna start the clock ticking on January 1st. You can't wait another year. So if you don't go till May, you're waiting until 2028 to collect anything, and we can't do that. And I would agree with you.
Can you take us back one more time, Mike? I'm sorry.
Well, while he's taking us back,
to the
let me rephrase my question then. You both came in here with this packet. Was the hopes that we'd be doing both in November? And
yes, yes. The hope was
That's
that
a
we would do
recommendation.
both.
and you're saying that we can't answer all the questions, whether it's 3 weeks from now or 6 months from now, because things change during the process. So why would we be better off? I'm asking this is not rhetorical. Why would we be better off to wait for the building to be a part of it rather than doing it now?
I don't think they're.
I
Go ahead, I'll give you that one.
Oh, thanks.
You got it.
I think
Can you,
putting,
real quick, can you just rephrase your question again?
Yes, you came in here with this, I'm assuming, in the hopes that we would be on board with this November with both being a part of one vote. One vote on the ballot, not one vote at this table. With that being said, and the fact that you're saying that having a fully baked plan in 3 weeks is not realistic, nor is it in the middle of the construction process, because it just doesn't work that way. So if we're never gonna have all those things answered, other than who we're planning with, a basic rendering, things of that idea, what would be the point of delaying doing both now?
Why wait?
Why wait?
I think that's what they're saying, there's not.
Yeah,
Well, I know, I want them to say that.
So I would say,
I mean, yes, that's so,
the recommendation, you're on
board with
it, you're not
that's what I was wanting, I just wanted to be that blunt about it.
I think
Like, wait a
to,
second.
to Ms. Grassi's standpoint is, going
You get a
November
cookie.
with the 1%, you start collecting in January, you are still committing to the building and to the and you're bringing these people in and you bring them. They are also making significant capital commitments as well that they particularly may not have, and they have to see how can we work the funding, how can we fund the other parts that are there that we have seen modeled in Wycliffe, for instance, is asking for the community center, and then you ask them into there to kind of help with that and what that looks like, and looking for funds and reaching out for that. And what that looks like across 5 communities is a lot different than what it looks like in just in Willoughby or just in Wycliffe. And the tenor for those communities who in some conversations with people to get them to the table even is there any interest or tenor to that? And they all kind of perked up a little bit and said, yeah, that could work. But I don't know where that's done in other areas. I could think of Macedonia built a community swimming pool a long time ago. This is a long time ago. But eventually opened up to the entire district, which is similar to us, the 5 communities that come together. Eventually opened it up to the entire district, but it was originally just that city's community, that recreational facilities complex, where they opened it up. This would almost be the exact opposite, where there's not really a city that has anything. It would be the Riverside. If we were able to get Concord and Painesville Township and Leroy on board, the Riverside Senior Center. Well, where is that? What does that look like, and how does that look in this opportunity? And what's the cost? And then they would have to argue out about who's spending it all. And I would say, well, you're taking money from us in the first place. You know, you could use that in the RIDs that you're doing and help you build that. But I think that's in terms of the complexity that's there are some complexities in our specific circumstance that are very different than using the model at Willoughby Eastlake, where Eastlake had a specific setting and Willoughby had their own, because Willoughby Senior Center, it's the Willoughby Senior Center that partnered with the schools and not the Eastlake Senior Center. I don't know if the Eastlake seniors get to use it, but it's a,
Yeah,
But
that's,
So back to your
Yeah.
question, I guess I want to make sure. I think their recommendation was, this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
They have confidence in the recommendation they presented.
Right. Okay.
That's why I
And-
asked you to restate it. I
Yes,
want to
thank
make
you.
sure I
And when you did this
understood.
in Willoughby, when the board first voted to proceed, were the plans any more baked than they are right now?
yes, they were.
By a ton? Like you already had all these partners signed on, the YMCA, what the rendering would look like, where the pool was gonna go?
By the time we hit the levee trail hard, which we hit it about 5 months ago, that was all done.
And
And the planning with the Y took 3 years. But the advantage we have with the Y is the person I work with is Dick Bennett, and we had all the legal stuff already done. He even mentioned that in our meeting, that's all done. I mean, it's an incredibly condensed timeline.
Can you go back to your risk with November?
Yeah, well, just look at this, and I will go wherever you want. Remember, if we pass here, have collection next year, that's a regular issue, but we're talking about if we do income tax, we're gonna be close.
It's 15 is the cutoff, right?
Right there, we're done. We're
And
done.
that 14.2 is assuming all things are equal.
Right.
Right, so, you know, I really, truly, in my experience, 29 years of this says, if you don't have all 5 board members on board, I mean, you touch the seniors. You touch everybody. you're the most liked person in this community. You guys are younger and new and have been out on the levee trail, and that's true. That's how I would say it. So-
We don't know one of those things are
Yeah,
compliments.
so, no, I'm not trying to give anybody compliments. I'm just, as a strategist, I'm saying, I need you guys to get the younger people and this, you know them. Everyone likes you. Everyone knows you, and you reach out to everybody, and you're connected deeply with the seniors. If you're all on board, I like our chances. But if 3 are on board and 2 aren't, or 3 are, 2, however it'll fail. And we don't have a week to kick this
I
around.
think what I'm hearing is you've got 5 people who are okay with operational in November.
Then we
don't
do
think-
that and
I
we go
don't
back
think-
in
I don't
May
think
for
we're five
some
people-
kind of building. You decreased your odds of passing. You decreased your odds of passing for absolutely sure, for exactly what you said. Your $10 analogy is exactly what, there'll be people that'll be like, what the heck? You guys were just on the ballot.
Keep tapping me, yeah.
Now you're coming again?
But
So
you
it
still,
sounds like
you
we're not
still
prepared.
have, you still have
But
2
we don't have a
months
vision.
to work that.
Mr. McIntyre?
Oh, gee, thanks.
I'm just telling you.
That's a lot of time.
I've heard this come out a lot
Yeah.
in strategists and all that, and the real answer can come down to, when you make a vote, a lot of that's personal and the what's in it for me. I don't,
100%.
I think the what's in it for me, when you sell the one community vision of operating and facility, reaches a lot more people than the what's in it for me for just operating. Now, I can say that earned income, the what's in it for me for our senior community is, well, unless I'm working for some reason, I don't, that tax
Generally
burden isn't
speaking.
in it for me. So
Generally.
what's in it for me? I can still support my schools and it doesn't impact me financially. That's what's in it for me, is I feel good about myself supporting the schools and it doesn't.
What's in it for me was I didn't have to pay
Well,
for anything.
on the opposite side, if you're gonna hit just the earned income for operation, then the young people are saying, we want schools, now there's nothing in it for them, and they're getting taxed.
Okay.
So now you're gonna
I
lose
think we
the
could
other way.
get MOUs. I think we could, within 60 days, if we had a green light today, I think within 60 days, we could get MOUs. If we're gonna get a senior center, we can get that done. I think Dick sort of already alluded to an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, in terms of you're not fully committed, but at least we can go out on the trail and say, this is the vision, here's the drawings, and here's some pictures of what it'll look like. Not
Okay.
perfect, but
This might be me not understanding the process being new. If the 5 of us, hypothetically, we voted 5 zip to, wouldn't this technically be an MOU? I mean, if we said, let's move forward, and then 6 weeks from now, we find out that our hesitations were right and some of the concerns have blown up, and we want to put
you
pause.
can always pull it off. Yes, you could always, if we hit May and the income taxes got their butts kicked across the board, you could always withdraw from the ballot.
So
Yes.
I guess that's why I'm asking, we don't have to pass these proposals until June. What
We
is?
want to know
Nothing
what we
official.
want them to work on.
I know, like.
Nothing official, but I don't want to be out there doing all the work that we have to do if we're not going to be on the ballot.
If we say,
I think you guys have to do the work in order to convince those of us at this table who aren't sold on it yet. We have to do the work.
but the other work that needs to spin up at the same time involves getting the kids, resurrecting the kids committee. We started to have those conversations and bringing them back into it. Having a levy committee start to get together and get those boots on the ground to work and what they're behind and what the vision is, and spilling with some of them. I think that's a part of it too, that has to work in concurrently, because it's not just, hey, we're going to move forward this and put this forward, but it's also all of the work that happens, and really and truly, Dr. Thompson and I can tell facts, and these are the facts. the actual truth tellers and those who can, outside of these meetings, who can go out and give the reasons, the yes votes and all that, are you five, our kids committee, and everybody else, and we can continue to get facts. And then when we take vacation days, then we can say, yes, we need to go vote and all that. But for the parts that when we are on the clock working, which is any other day that we don't take vacation, according to the Attorney General, we are giving facts.
I'm concerned we don't have some of that stuff kind of buttoned up, at least in better fashion than we have it right now. And then they fall through and people already voted. I'm concerned about that, and I'm concerned about, again, I'll go back and I'll just continue to maintain, I'm not completely sold on the completely funding all of it with income tax. I'm not there yet, again.
I don't know what it would look like for us to vote on, but I would almost wish that we would have some kind of vote of confidence to say, get the ball rolling, and you have our blessing, but we have the right, as we all know legally, to hit the pause button.
And you don't need a resolution or anything to do that until you go to do it.
Well, and I think that's what I'm saying, like, what is the hesitation behind doing that and like bringing more data to the table?
Well, I guess what I think that means is the levy campaign is rolling.
Oh, it's.
We're rolling. That's what I'm saying. We need to form our levy committee, make our investments, begin,
Can you
sign
elaborate?
our MOUs with our partners.
When you say make our investment, what's the financial implication if we do all that and then pause, or rescind, or stop?
It depends on how much we spend, but
On
could
what
be thousands.
On what hypothetically?
Well,
Having
you
someone
gotta
make
make
a
all
move.
your literature, your
Yeah.
signs, your.
Well, but that wouldn't be till later down the road, right? We
No,
wouldn't
I
be
think
doing it next week.
they're trying to like
No.
ask us to do that
No.
now, and I'm
No.
not ready to have us do
Now.
that now.
What would be on the
Yard-
literature?
Yard signs from now until.
Right, like,
Remember, you
Oh,
got
yeah.
what, early voting in September?
October.
Early voting started
Early
yesterday
October?
for May.
So, if you guys recall, when we were on for 2016 for the bond levy, I mean, we were doing meetings, neighborhood meetings as early as February.
Coffees with Kalis.
But we were a year into this process already.
I'm just saying,
Right.
the
So,
process of getting
it's
those
different.
meetings, getting that information out there,
It is, but I think
Dr.
that's
Thompson's
the point.
alluding to.
I think what they're saying,
If I'm hearing from both you and you,
if we need to commit now to something so that those things can start happening. So we need to commit now either to operating alone, operating in facilities together.
and again, I like how you've been putting it. If we can say, we think we're confident that we can move forward with operating, but we know these things like to come to the table, you can start that. If we're gonna sit here and say, no, we're still not confident, that work can't begin. And I've ran multiple levy committees, I know you have also. It's a ton of work, a lot of work. So I think if I hear what you're asking, you guys are asking us, kind of give us with confidence where we're going.
Yes.
I just want to, Mr. McIntyre, I saw you shaking your head at a couple of things. I mean, from what you've seen in schools, again, the risk to us right now, kind of where we're sitting. Have you seen other schools at this point, at this time? And have they come out with a positive outcome? Or do you see them more likely, the risk is really high?
No, I think the risk is very high. I think it's immeasurably high.
Yeah.
I think now is the time for action.
Absolutely.
Could you be more specific? Action, define action.
Basically what Dr. Rotino and Dr. Thompson have laid out is the approach that I would say the vast majority of school districts would implement immediately under the circumstances that you find yourselves in if they were in those same circumstances.
I know it's not a legal question, but I know you just see so many different things out there. That's why I wanted to ask.
You are in the 11th hour and it's time to make some decisions.
So you're
That's
speaking
not-
operationally because of the forecast?
Well,
I need to,
So yes, absolutely operationally, but I would also say that from a facilities standpoint, my non-legal perception is that the state of this building is such that it needs immediate attention, and it's frankly very difficult to solve a facilities issue of this magnitude with this other circumstances you find yourself in terms of needing operation money. But to come, for the board to come up with essentially an enthusiastic endorsement of what Dr. Rotino and Dr. Thompson have laid out, I think is the question that you need to answer tonight. And I would say that most school districts would jump at the opportunity to have leaders in place that wanted to pursue that with the community right now. This facility needs work immediately.
A community that is probably more engaged than it has.
I know I wasn't asked this specifically right now, but I'm going to share it. I think that there are way more pros of doing both now. When we're not going to the public twice, I think when we get the package that operationally, if we don't pass it, in addition to the building aspect, that there's going to be a lot of cuts to the hypotheticals you laid out with teachers and administrators and programs and pay as you play. And the fact that we can package that all together, I think the momentum is in our favor. And if the two of you feel confident that you can package this and present it to the community in a meaningful way, then honestly, I have confidence in both of you to do that.
I like how you said that. I would be on board too.
And, you know, as far as your experience with income tax, I know Willoughby Eastlake was looking at an income tax, and then they scaled it back by a point, and, you know, a percentage.
I don't even
And then they
think
took
so.
it off the table entirely, right?
right.
It went from
Well,
2 to 1 to, no.
So, for instance, your exact questions, they started at 2, they saw predictions, this from prior to, they saw predictions of the impact of legislation. Then they pulled it back a little bit, they saw impacts, they saw the impact, so 2% they were to pull off all their emergency levies, it was gonna be 2%. Then they saw the impact of all the new House bills, and they had to, they're like, well, 2% doesn't cover this, so they pulled it back. Then they went to 1, thinking 1 will work, still saw some implications of what was going on, pulled it off again to kind of, to take a look at, you know, the bigger picture as to where their implications. Granted, they're slated to lose a lot more money than we are. I think it's to the tune of $8 million a year, if not more. I don't know the exact number, but their increase was a lot larger because they have been on the 20 mil floor forever, and every single levy was an emergency levy.
They got crushed over that.
Yes, we are not. So that bill alone significantly impacted where they are 2 years out, to the point where I don't know. I think it is astronomical what they're going to do for the lift for that. And again,
Right.
they've got a lot more business funding. They're not necessarily funding as much locally as we are too. So there's a bigger ask in that aspect as well. From our standpoint and where we are looking, you know, this is, again, we're building on the momentum. It's a one-time ask. It's a, here's where we're at. Come all in. You know, it's both. It's packaged. It's there. We will work to get out every single thing we can. And I think it's okay to say, at some point, yes, we're working on that. We will get it as soon as we can. And if that's the sole reason, because it's another 0.25%. And I understand there's implications to whatever you ask for, but that looks a little different sometimes than that impacts, you know, than a 9 mil list. That looks a lot different than a 5 mil bond issue where we're specifically spelled out. And it is, we are absolutely addressing our high school needs. Here's the rendering we came up with, here's the first aspect. We continue to build that out, and as we build it out, we'll share, we'll have those meetings publicly, we'll bring you in on it, And whoever wants to come and be a part of it, that to be a part of it. But as soon as we get that momentum rolling, now we've got some momentum rolling. Yeah, we got a community member. We got 5 board members behind the whole plan for facilities, and this is what we're doing, and this is how it's going to look. And we still have some opportunities, but there's other untapped funds that we don't even know that exist and aren't necessarily grounded or even organized. I think of the youth sports and all the use they want on our fields. If we could get those parents organized in some way to say, hey, we're doing this, and it may be on the back end of a 5-year project, but we still have Cleveland Construction. They may come to the party late. The same way the senior center, and will be, that, at least the story, I don't want to speak for you, but the senior center kind of came a little bit late to the party and added into it. The same way that happens, if we start planting the seed now with some of our strong sports parents, the same way they kind of raised funds for the field house 2.0 could be a reality, because now you're building construction at a much reduced rate than you would be when you're doing it on your own.
Our eye clinic and doctor's clinic came in at the completion of, it was the last deal we struck, and we had already built out the space.
And they had confidence because of what they saw and the fact that you had board support. And I'm assuming the case, the same would be for us. There might be third-party companies or businesses who hear that we're all on board moving forward and say, well, if the board is supporting it, and we think about what happened with the financing for Buckeye. There was some scare tactics there, and they backed off. We would have the opposite effect here if we were all pushing forward.
Right, so I just, again, I think we're kind of running in a circle here. We don't have all the information. I think we need to say,
Besides, we've heard 3 things, I guess, to you, Ms. Grassi, and you, Ms. Brewster, can you get behind the recommendation of the superintendent and treasurer as things develop, or kind of where you at?
I'm gonna cross my arms and just squeeze my fists really tight and say, if you guys are adamant about doing this plan and you're behind this plan, if you're behind this plan, I'm gonna get behind this plan. I have reservations. I'm gonna ask you 1,500 questions.
I expect that.
I am.
Mathematically, that was a weird thing to say.
I actually expect 1,501.
And because I know all of this is what's best for kids. I get it. I have lots of.
But it's not just what's best for kids.
Let me finish. I have lots of questions and lots of reservations about the funding mechanisms and whatever, and I'm going to ask you 1,000 questions about that kind of stuff because people are going to ask me, because that's what I do, and they're gonna ask me that stuff, and I have to feel comfortable giving them an answer that I'm comfortable with, not something that's just being spit back from you guys, because.
I would just set your limit at 2,000.
Okay.
That way you have
It's
extra.
$500.
I'll get you a
After that, the
clicker.
ChatGPT limit goes way up and the cost is really expensive.
I will get you one of those grocery counter clickers. You can have that.
Does it go
Remember
up
those red things?
Oh,
Like,
the
remember
little,
those? I used
with
to,
the ink?
yes. No, with just the little red clicker.
Oh.
I'm dating myself.
I remember.
All right, Ms. Brewster.
I totally hear everyone and the rationale and everything, but I'm still weighing on what is going to be successful at the ballot and what I hear day in, day out and live, or see how people are living. And you asked me to represent seniors. Wow. I mean,
We need you.
I just had, something fixed in my house. He's from Leroy, and wow, did I get an earful. I mean, it's like, and I tried to explain, this isn't gonna affect blah, blah, blah.
And I get
Yeah.
it,
I mean, I'm worried about passing operational based on some of what I'm hearing. I'm worried.
So I think what I'm hearing though, just again, I think you guys have a green light.
Obviously, there's questions that are going to be asked along the way, but I think we're hearing.
Is the board comfortable with, at our next board meeting, a resolution? We don't need the resolution to proceed and all the legal notices yet, but would the board be comfortable with a resolution to, in support of this
No, I think we have to have the resolution to proceed, because without that, I'm not gonna be okay with our levy committee spending money either. Like, we have,
Well, I
we
can,
have,
I
I
can put
believe,
that on right now if
No,
you're
no,
ready
I
for
Can't,
it.
we didn't notice it.
I believe that
Well-
we have to commit to that, and if I'm not willing to
No, I don't
commit,
mean right now.
if I'm not willing to commit, like, if
Okay.
we're not willing to commit to that as a board, then no, I wouldn't be comfortable.
But you would be comfortable with passing a resolution to proceed.
If you guys are good, if that's the way you wanna work it,
That's the first step.
like, I believe
Yes, I'm
that you're
comfortable
gonna
with
have to do that, because otherwise, I don't,
Dan?
like, I just.
Crap.
We will start spitting.
Thank
There
you.
goes mine.
Thank you.
A lot of good discussion.
Thank you for all your work. and
Yes, please.
It gives me talking points, but I think it's,
I think the biggest thing for really, and I understand, yes, we are trying to do what we are hearing is the most is not taxing seniors out of their homes. Property tax is not stable. I think stable is a fair word to use. There's
Unpredictable.
unpredictable is very much something that comes out of it. This is the new way to go. I think May is very telling to a lot of it. What happens in May is a big issue. I think statewide, and not just in this cross section, but truly statewide is a big thing that's there. And I think there's a lot that comes from how we sell the vision. And there's a lot of people who we showed just the rendering of old school, new school combination, like that hybrid model, flexing that out. There's a lot of people who we showed that to, and they pause, they wait, this is what it could be, and that has piqued some interest. So that is.
Operational dollars is never gonna change whether, like, no matter what happens this May. Operational money is, we're still gonna have to go for operational dollars, and I don't think that May should change the vision. If this district is gonna move forward, then you gotta move forward, like, full blast, or forget it, because we've seen what that does, too.
Right. So you guys got,
and I would also like to see, I know we're making a statement does not apply to social security pensions or retirement income. There's also RMD that a lot of people talk about. It's required minimum distributions if you had an IRA or whatever. All of this is taxable according to the IRS, but not this.
Correct, it's not earned income.
It's no investment.
Unless
This
you
is
have a
straight-
part-time job to pay your
If you have a
taxes.
part-time job,
That would be the only thing.
Yeah.
It's 1%, 1%.
all right.
I know.
So again, I think we have, moving forward, we're good?
Okay.
All right, so we still have a little bit of business to do,
Yeah. Oh.
but we're gonna excuse some people.
Oh, that's right, you guys have more business.
Yeah.
I-
So we're gonna move to executive session. So be it resolved that the Riverside Local School District Board of Education hereby adjourns to executive session at 7:52 PM to discuss personnel matters relating to the employment of public officials in the Riverside Local School District. Board of Education hereby designates all matters discussed in this executive session as strictly confidential and finds that this designation is warranted because of the status of these matters and the need to preserve confidentiality to properly conduct the business of this Board of Education. Can I get a second?
Second.
Joe.
J-
Sure, give it to me.
Joe.
Joe?
I'll take that one.
Okay.
All right, can we have a roll, please?
Ms. Brewster?
Aye.
Mr. Adino?
Aye.
Mrs. Grassi?
I
Mr. Vyers?
Aye.
Mrs. Krasinski?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. I think we need